Were you asleep? Is that why you were offline?
I was trying to take a little pre-show nap. Didn't really work out.
I like naps.
Well, who doesn't?
I don't know. You know, I guess I have a love-hate relationship with naps because they're great when you have them. But then later that night when you try to actually go to bed and get some sleep, you're like, damn you naps!
Can't say I've ever heard anyone curse naps.
No, I have cursed naps. I have cursed them. Yeah, it's a thing.
You know what I curse?
Who? What?
Bone Town, because apparently it was important enough to kick me off last week.
Maybe you should be up on your latest boning news if you want to be a part of this, Robert. That's really your fault, isn't it?
It's true. Boning news is a very, very important thing.
As important as it is, we all have our own little vices we have to work out. Boning was not the first on my agenda that week. It was like 3.
Well, what were the first 2?
I can't say.
See, I'm skeptical now, because if you could tell me the 2 other things that were ahead of boning on your agenda last week, I might be able to, I'd be like, oh, well, I understand that. Knowing this podcast, the only things I can think of that would come ahead of boning would be, violence against small children and possibly hating on David Cage. If they were those 2 things, I can understand.
Well, it was more along the lines of hating on a baby version of David Cage.
Ooh. Did you get violent with it?
I did.
See, I can understand that. I don't think Austin's going to speak much this week. I think we already put him to sleep.
Apparently.
I was trying to think of a joke combining all of those elements, but it always came back to boning baby David Cage, and I didn't want to.
You, sir, are foul.
Like the bird?
No.
A waterfowl.
Like the ball that gets hit by the batter but then goes beyond the lines and lands in a part of the stadium that's considered not legal within the confines of the rules of baseball for play. What I'm trying to say, Austin, is that you have been led astray like some horrendous baseball.
The sports ball fans. You guys should get Taylor to take my place this week, and then I can just go to sleep.
Well, Taylor's not here, is he?
Not yet, because we haven't told him.
But he doesn't look like he's online either.
He doesn't get home for an hour.
Oh. I don't know his schedule.
Yeah.
God damn it, Robert. Sort your fucking priorities out, son.
Well, wait, does boning go ahead or below of knowing Taylor's schedule?
Well, I mean, Taylor and boning are synonymous, really.
Seeing as how that was the whole reason we brought him on the podcast last week.
Fair enough.
Taylor is boning.
Really?
Taylor is Bone Town.
You know what the can of worms you've opened now, because now we have to give something similar to everyone on the site.
Do we?
I think we do.
Like Sean is terrible taste?
Well, I was going for more sexual terms, but okay, that works too.
I thought we were just giving everyone just things that define them, because if Taylor is boning and Johnny is kawaii...
I'm not going to shake that now, am I?
No.
All right. I will learn to live with it, as much as it saddens me.
I feel like there's something I wanted to say.
No, you don't.
Sassafras? Because I usually want to say that. It's a fun word.
I like sarsaparilla.
Oh, Robert, did you want to... I mean, people already told me on Twitter and in the comments, but did you want to clarify for listeners who do not read such things about the teneritis?
Should we not actually save this for the podcast?
It's not really. It's just a thing from last week.
Ah.
I don't care. I guys, for real though, I do not give any shits this week about anything. So
that might actually be kind of funny, but you, sir, may have to turn in your Xenosaga cred. Because you called D. Teneritas X-Buster, and you should be ashamed of yourself for it. Because D. Teneritas comes out of the chest, and X-Buster comes out of the stomach. Although I will grant you that the boob jiggling makes absolutely no sense considering she's made of metal.
Yeah, and also someone asked, was she designed by a man or a woman? I believe Vector Industries, and I can't, my brain is not even... Kevin and Shion were co-designers on it.
Mostly Kevin. Shion kind of finished up after an unfortunate incident.
Well, I'm saying, wouldn't you ask your boyfriend why he's adding jiggling boobs to the battle robot? I feel like that conversation would happen.
Well, I would, but we're talking about Shion here, and considering her character development, I would buy that she wouldn't.
I actually brought that up in an article once. I cannot think in any medium of a character who starts so likable and becomes so unlikable, like, unintentionally. It's not like...
No, I think they developed it on purpose that way, and I kind of, like, I even put her on that old list I made of most unlikable protagonists. I honestly like that she developed that way, because she's so different.
It's hard to judge author intent. I like it too. I love Xenosaga, even when it's terrible. It's just that it's not like she's becoming the villain. It's just like she's just becoming a bad person.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen that. Like, at the beginning, she's just, like, a genuinely, like, nice, warm person. At the end, she's just a selfish harpy. And it's, like, a gradual thing. It's interesting. I've never seen someone do that to their main character before without it being, like, a twist. It's just kind of a thing that happens.
It is really interesting. That's probably why I keep getting involved. I mean, I don't like Shion by the end of it all. Not at all. I'm just like, basically, every time she does anything, I'm just like, bitch, what the hell? I'm trying to help you out. You're just bitching him out. Damn if it isn't interesting to show that characters don't always get better from hardship.
It's interesting. I'll give it that. But yes, for the record, it's not the X-Buster. I feel like that's like the most nitpicking of mistakes, but I will cop to it. Still, no reason for the jiggling. Yeah. The end.
Plus, if we really wanted to get nitpicky, I could get even further in, but I don't think we want to go down that hole.
Oh, something, your holes.
This has nothing to do with my holes, sir.
I'll make it about your holes.
Well, too bad. My holes are already full.
I don't know if we should actually bring other people on here, Johnny.
Yeah.
Maybe on a different... you have to check beforehand to see what kind of mood I'm in. If I just start insulting random guests and threatening their orifices.
Yep.
I can roll with it.
I feel like this is the part where I say something, but I don't want to. So, Johnny, do you want to start before this gets any worse? Or do you want to get all the terrible out now?
Oh, no. I'm saving some of my terrible for the actual podcast. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Cuisine for the Inept. Today on Cuisine for the Inept, I, your host, Johnny Maloney, and my co-hosts, Austin Yorsky and Mr. Robert Heck, are going to lead you through some of the more sophisticated dishes that the stupidest people on Earth could possibly make. So today's first dish is going to be grapes. Now, grapes is a relatively easy dish to prepare. With only about 3 steps required in order for you to enjoy grapes.
Step 1, go to the supermarket. Step 2, pick them off the floor.
we need to make sure that the supermarket that you're choosing has a produce section, because I'm about to blow your mind here. Grapes are actually a fruit. And contrary to what some people might tell you, fruit does actually grow on trees. And a number of other plants as well, such as grapes, which actually grow on vines. So, when choosing your supermarket to go to, it's incredibly important that you choose one that sells fruit. Step 2, buy some grapes. Now, when buying your grapes, you've got to make sure that you have some kind of legal tender that you can exchange for goods and services.
I disagree with this entire section, Johnny. Just eat the grapes in the store. What are they going to do? They can't prove a thing. Fuck the man. Eat the grapes.
It's crucially important when deciding what legal tender to take with you, because legal tender is actually regionally restricted. You cannot buy grapes in an American superstore with rubles. I've done extensive research on the subject. You need to make sure that you have American dollars if you are shopping in the United States of America. Now,
shoplifting is accepted everywhere.
I'm not advocating illegal behavior here, Austin.
I am. I don't give a fuck.
Now, once you have obtained the grapes, step 3, eat the grapes. Now, a lot of people are kind of curious as to whether or not there's a good beverage pairing with grapes. And Austin Yorsky is going to lead us through the super complicated steps of drinking a glass of water with your grapes. Austin, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, first you go outside, you find the hose. It should be located somewhere around, I don't care where you keep your fucking hose, just find it. And then you put it in your mouth and turn it on. There you go. What do you think about that, Johnny?
Do you not want to maybe advise people out there that there are different sources of water and which ones you should avoid and which ones you should... Because I'm not sure that having a glass of toilet water would complement grapes as well as, say, water that comes out the tap.
That's why I said hose. That's where the real grown-ups get their water from.
Is there any kind of serving method you would advise?
Tongue. Use your tongue. Oh no. Johnny.
Yeah?
This episode's gonna get real weird real quick.
I'm simply trying to provide some of our less capable listeners with an encyclopedic, step-by-step instructional manual on how to properly feed themselves, Austin. Why you must keep derailing this is baffling to me.
I don't know. I just feel really trolly today. That's my thing for this episode. I'm just gonna mess you up as much as possible.
Me specifically, or everybody in general?
I think it's gonna be you.
I'm in the target sites.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
You can handle it.
I will do my best to throw weird thing after weird thing at you and see how you cope with it as well.
In the meantime, I'll tell you how to make cereal.
Ooh. Now we're getting into the highbrow stuff.
Like you got them in the little bit with the grapes. Now we have to step it up a notch.
All right.
Are you one of those people who puts the milk in first? I hate those people.
If you put the milk in first, policemen rush into your house and beat you up for being one of those guys. Like the same people who take a bite of all the bars of a Kit Kat bar at once.
Is that a thing? Do people put milk in a bowl before they add cereal?
I've met people like that. I don't associate with them anymore.
That seems very strange to me.
But anyway, assuming you go through the same steps as with the grapes, of going to a supermarket where cereal exists alongside another beverage that comes from the others of cows named milk, and you purchase these with American money, assuming you're in America, or whatever legal tender is good in your country, you must then get a bowl, which is like a plate, but with a depression in the middle, a deep one.
You give me a deep depression, Robert.
Deep enough to hold your cereal.
The cereal of anguish only.
Honestly, guys, I just eat cereal out of the bag dry, and I just eat like
And
Cheerios.
you disassociate from the people who put in the milk first.
What kind of
You
cereal,
are so
Austin?
nerd.
What kind of cereal?
Just like Cheerios, not just like the driest, boring.
The driest, blandest, grossest.
Like just wheat, just wheat O's.
I would love to see you eat like Weetabix dry out in the cereal box. Just grab a bar of Weetabix and just start munching down on it like it was a candy bar.
I don't know if I like the word Weetabix. I said this before. I don't know if we actually get that in America though. Isn't that a not American thing?
I'm not sure. I've
never seen it.
I've never been in America and been like, God damn it, I need some Weetabix.
I just looked it up. It's a Australian and United Kingdom thing. I don't think we get Weetabix here. I just like the word.
We get it in Canada. We get Weetabix in Canada.
I believe you, because Canada is kind of like a cold version of places where they speak English that are not America.
Are we just talking about words we like now? Because I want to talk about casserole. Casserole is a funny word.
Can you advise inept people how to make casseroles?
Oh, shoot. I never finished on my cereal. I never finished the cereal. They must be so confused staring at the bowl and wondering.
Just milk, cereal, and a bowl and being like, how do I do?
Basically, you must pour the cereal into the bowl by opening the bag inside the box after you've opened the box. Preferably from the top, although if you want to open from the bottom, I will not stop you.
Directions unclear. Got dick stuck in bowl.
That's impressive. Most impressive. pouring the milk.
This is getting too complicated. You lost me.
And basically, as long as the cereal does not catch fire, you have succeeded. And you may now eat it.
What if the cereal,
with your face.
What if the cereal is designed to catch fire? I think I just invented the most metal fucking cereal ever. Flamios.
Speaking of metal, did you guys see the comment on the YouTube version of the podcast last week?
I wasn't aware of the things in the last podcast for some reason.
Fuck you, Robert. We talked about how metal the Bible was last week, and someone in the YouTube comments. I'll just wait if you're gonna look it up yourself. But
yeah. Let me check this shit out, yo.
I'll do it too.
The succubus experience.
Have you ever looked back and read through all the podcast titles? It is a glorious thing.
Oh yeah, I do that every once in a while. It's good.
It gets. Oh wait, that looks like a reply. Have y'all even read the Bible? It gets super metal if you read the Book of Enoch as well.
Oh jeez. Just for listeners, if you want us to respond to you, we should probably do it on the Blistered Thumbs version of that, because we don't really use the Channel Awesome YouTube for responding to people. Like, we read them, but if you actually want us to answer your questions, to answer you here, I've read the Bible. I went to school to study it. How about you guys?
I've read a good portion of the Bible, actually. I've also read good portions of the Book of Mormon, which is considerably less metal than the Bible. I'm assuming that this particular commenter may have only read like one of the updated Bibles. Like I have two Bibles at home. I have a classic King James Bible at home, and then I have a contemporized Bible. And the contemporized Bible is actually only the New Testament. And let's be clear, the New Testament is not really very metal at all. Like, it's
significantly less metal. It's got some demons. Revelations is good.
Yep.
Mark has some good stuff in it,
but it's let's be honest here. In response to like classic metal with its like leather and spiky bits and shit like that, the New Testament is like skin tight leopard print tights metal. It's like hair metal.
And I am now imagining Brutal Legend.
So that's a thing. Yep. So video games, eh? Speaking of Brutal Legend, that's a video game.
Oh yeah, real quick. Sean did a whole thing on it, so I don't want to spend too much time. Do you guys want to say anything about Double Fine and their whole thing?
Oh, this is barely even a problem. I don't know why this is a problem. I don't know why this is a scandal.
I mean, if you gave them like $1,000, then I could understand. But I imagine the average person who kicked them, a sandwich worth of money, they're probably overreacting if they are upset.
It doesn't bother me at all, to tell you the truth, because all it really, at this point in time, particularly having been given access to the documentary that Two Player Productions is doing of the whole Kickstarter experience, is it basically is like, it's kind of laying bare the endemic problems to the industry. And I find it kind of fascinating that it's like everybody was so excited to circumvent publishers, to get the game that they wanted, to get the game that, was going to be good, and it was going to be more than you'd ever expected, and it was going to be, originally a budget for $400,000, but now it's $3.2 million. And the moment that the developer has a little bit of a problem, with the scope of the game or, what they want to make against what they can make or something like that, immediately the internet, and I don't know whether or not how many of these people that are actually complaining about the whole thing, I don't know how many of them are backers or how many of them are just people who like to complain, but their immediate reaction to it is just like every fucking publisher I've ever heard in my entire life. Well, get the game out on budget. Cut it down. Cut some stuff. Spend less money. Meet your milestones. It's like all of these people have suddenly gone from, wanting to try this experiment, because let's be clear here, Kickstarter is still experimental. And they've gone from that to immediately being like, why can't you meet your deadlines? Cut staff. Destroy the script. Gut the game. Put something out by Christmas.
It's different when it's your money.
I guess, but like we either need to give these people some creative leeway and admit that the Kickstarter system is still finding its feet, it's still finding its ground, or we have to admit that donating to an unmade product was a bad idea.
I mean, I think it's a case-by-case basis. I wouldn't have given Tim Schafer my money if I didn't trust him to deliver a product that I think is worth my money.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I'm not losing any sleep over it. I guess people just need to be careful about who they give their money to. Tim has a history of going over budget. You probably should have done your research, I guess.
Yep.
I don't want to go too far into it. Sean and Yusuf did a whole episode. I'll link it under the cast. So if you want to hear more about that, you can listen to them argue. Yusuf is pissed.
I don't know why. I mean, it could be worse. It could be, you remember that Kickstarter that canceled because the guy said that God didn't want him to make the game?
No, I don't remember that specifically. No.
Oh, that's a new one.
Yeah, there was some guy. Let me try and see if I can Google it here.
Getting the mental image now of this guy just sitting there at his computer working on his little game, and then just like the sky parts, his roof opens up or something, and God comes down from on high and just says, "Buddy, I've seen what's gonna happen here, and I gotta tell you, just no."
It was, I mean, a lot of people are like, what?
Is it like the Monty Python and the Holy Grail God?
I don't know.
That would be amazing.
Always with the groveling. I have a better image. Just like Jesus knocks the door. He's, hey, can you knock that shit off? Just like, dude, Jesus, I'm working here.
Stop it.
Stop being such a dick, Jesus.
Go any episodes without being at least slightly sacrilegious.
I cannot find it, and that's sad.
Honestly, I think the just over description you gave is enough.
Well,
really.
the problem that you have, the problem that I have trying to Google it is that there's so much like Kickstarter news that just shows up that it's difficult to find that one. There's all this like, oh, Zach Braff is using Kickstarter, and then there's all this, oh, Veronica Mars used Kickstarter, and then all this like fake Kickstarters and fucking like, bleh. In any case, the guy, like, he got funded. He got all his money and started making it and things like that. And then, like, this one day, he's like, I've stopped making this game because God told me to. And it's like, did he? Because, I mean, I don't want to be like, dude, you should make the game. Because if God was actually like, dude, don't do it, I'm like, well, you probably shouldn't do it then. But,
I just feel like God would have higher priorities, right? If he was going to make personal calls to people and, like, come down for some profit shit, you'd think it would be, Egypt, Syria, Israel, anywhere else.
Or maybe the game was just going to be that bad.
Or that good. He didn't want it showing him up.
My game greater than God.
God is the Citizen Kane of deities.
Yeah, I can't find it.
Okay, well, I'll probably cut out like half of that because we're gonna get lynched.
So,
I'm surprised we haven't already.
The point is, right, is that it's like it is a risk. It's absolutely a risk. And I mean, I am still prepared at this point in time for any of the projects that I've donated to be subpar, for me not to enjoy them as much as I thought I did, or for some of them to not even possibly get made. I mean, I've donated to a bunch of different Kickstarters now. I think the count is up at like 16 or something like that. But I am fully prepared. No, here we go. 40. I have backed 40 projects on Kickstarter. 16, I guess, was lowballing it. So I backed 40 projects. Most of them are games. Most of them.
I think you might have a problem, Johnny.
No. It's not a problem. Believe me. But I am fully prepared for some of them to be underwhelming or to not not be that good or not be what I expected or anything like that, you know. But when I clicked that button that was like donate, I was fully fucking prepared for the results on the other end of that. There were ones that I was really excited about, and I really wanted to see them funded and meet their goal, so I donated more than I normally would have. And then there are other ones that I was like, I don't know you as a person, you know, I don't know what it is that you've done. You don't really have that much stuff for me to, like, look back on and say, oh, hey, yeah, you know, like, this guy's got a pretty good back catalog. So I'll just throw a couple of bucks their way, because it's like, oh, well, you know, like, hey, if this comes out, I'd be interested, and I want to see it succeed, so why not? But, I mean, if you're thinking that just because you paid money before the game was made, that automatically means that it's going to be good, or that automatically means that every single thing that the designer wants to do is going to, like, come to life in a way that's never been, you know, it's not like Kickstarter is not, like, the best seasoning you could possibly put on a steak, you know. It's just another way to get things done. I mean, the games industry is still going to have development cost problems, deadline problems, fucking staff problems, all of it. And if you didn't know that before you gave someone some money for something that didn't even exist yet, lesson learned. But yeah, I'm with you, Austin. I got faith in Tim Schafer. I know that when it comes out the other end, I'm probably going to enjoy it one way or another. I would like it to be the game that he wants to make, because the games that he is, like, most proud of, I love so much. But, you know, deal with it, yo.
Yeah, I mean, Kickstarter, it's a thing. This has been the concern since day one. I don't know how much time we should spend on it, because everyone's kind of made up their mind. Either they're done with it, or they're still waiting for it to pan out. You know?
Yeah.
What you gonna do?
I'm done. That's it.
First story.
Sorry, it sounded like Robert had something to say.
Robert never has anything to say.
Oh.
I thought I was going to be the one in your target size. You've been picking on Robert all podcast so far.
I'm gonna start picking on myself. That's
how antsy you are. It's like any second now you're going to be like, my God, the bugs, they're under my skin.
Not the bees. He's gonna turn into Nick Cage.
Not the bees.
Actually, if we could get Nick Cage on this podcast, that'd be pretty awesome.
Did you guys see that fantastic photo that I tweeted? That screen cap of somebody's Saints Row 3rd character?
I don't follow Twitter.
You don't follow? Okay, all right. I'm gonna find this here.
While you're doing that, which story should we even hit first, anyway?
Well. Oh wait. Even better. I found a YouTube link. Oh yeah. We can edit this out, but there you go. Fantastic.
Oh, God.
Isn't that eerie?
He's incomplete without bees.
I prefer to think of it as Nicolas Cage from Bad Lieutenant, because then that character actually really, like, it works really well in context.
Okay.
Did you guys hear that the Saints Row series going forward? Because basically they've hit the ceiling. It can't get any crazier.
Pretty much.
After 4, so they might do something else entirely. They didn't specify. They just said it might go in a new direction.
And I'm all for that.
Yeah. If they do that, now that they think they've hit their peak on that particular thing, more power to them. No reason to keep going if you think you can't do any better.
I don't think anybody could argue that it hasn't hit its peak.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you'd have to, like, it would feel artificial to try to keep going crazier.
You're president of the United States. You're being invaded by aliens. You have superpowers. What else are you gonna do?
Take over the universe?
I know, but the thing is that becomes an entirely new game, because you can't just have him, like, running through the solar system. You can't have him, like, jacking spaceships and driving around.
I don't think he tried hard enough. Clearly.
I think that should be, like, how it ends. He just starts, like, just hijacking entire planets and driving them into each other.
Yeah, just passes by all the planets, and then he passes by Pluto. I'm taking this.
Yeah.
Crashes it into something.
You know, it becomes an entirely new game at that point in time. You'd have to, in order to go any bigger than Saints Row already has, you would honestly need to lose, like, everything about the gameplay and just make a new game from scratch.
It'd just be a 4X space sim.
Yeah, right. A fucking Saints Row the 5th, the craziest goddamn RTS you've ever played in your life.
And that should be the subtitle.
All right. So, but sorry. News stories. Okay. Why don't we start with the the gentler one, and we'll talk about Jen Ellsworth.
Yeah.
Jerry Ellsworth, excuse me, not Jen. So Jerry Ellsworth, who is I'm not sure what her official title is, really. Like, what I would say is, because she seems to be sort of a jack of all trades, because she's obviously a hardware designer, because her current what is it, the Castar, I think it's called, the Kickstarter, which is a set of 3D glasses or something. So there's obviously some hardware design in her history, but also a software designer, because she's responsible for a Commodore 64 emulator. Ms. Ellsworth, excuse me, worked at Valve. A lot of talk over the past couple of years has cropped up about Valve and their particularly unique take on the way their company is managed, with little blurbs and things like their handbook, their management handbook that came out. And a lot of people are like, wow, like Valve must be doing something so right if they can manage their company in such a unique way and make money hand over fist and pioneer in digital distribution. And, they've been large proponents of the Oculus Rift headset, and there's talk of them entering the console space, even though the whole Steambox thing has, like, more twists and turns than a rally race. Ms. Ellsworth has some choice words to say about Valve. Now, to clarify, she's absolutely clear that while she was working at Valve, she loved it. That it was great. She enjoyed working with the people. She had a good time. But the public perception of the way the company is managed isn't quite as accurate as quirky documents like the Valve Handbook would lead us to believe. Miss Ellsworth says that it was very much like high school, in that there were a lot of cliques, lots of sort of a power structure, people that had more prestige than others. There were nerds, there were geeks, there were outcasts, there were rock stars, and in accordance to that, you would be treated as such. Now, my question is anybody really surprised?
I'm certainly not.
I mean, when you get a group of people together, things just kind of naturally, at least in my experience, humans tend to reproduce that kind of social structure eventually after a certain amount of people get together. That's just how things work.
Yeah, I mean, was anybody really fooled into thinking that like once you walked through the door on your first day at Valve, it was this utopian world of cooperation and respect and love and autonomy and responsibility? And I mean,
I think when we all saw the handbook, the idea was that it wasn't so rigidly clinging to traditional corporate structure, and that kind of...
Which it's not. I mean, this is something that should be acknowledged, is that none of the things that Miss Ellsworth says contradicts that idea, that it is a very, I don't want to sound dramatic by saying revolutionary. Yeah, it uses a much looser structure.
And that may be conducive to kind of creativity that has helped them get where they are, which is good. But it doesn't mean that just because you do something like that, something that's interesting and helpful in some areas, that it's automatically perfect in every area. Obviously, human nature is such that when you get two people together, they will ostracize a third person. So,
and I mean, she does pretty much say as much, insofar as that she confesses flat out that the company incentivizes employees to work on prestigious projects. So even if you go to Val and you're like, I want to make all these things, I want to do all these things, I want to do this, and they say to you, okay, that's great, that's fantastic, we would love for you to do these, but if you want to get paid, not that they're not paying, employees, but if you want to get, this great bonus or these fantastic perks or this or whatever, we really need you to work on Dota 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big takeaway from the story is to kind of keep things in perspective. Valve is another company at the end of the day. It's not some kind of magical wonderland
You mean how people should be a little bit more reasonable about what they should take out of Kickstarter?
Yeah. Isn't that so boring that we're just like, guys, actually things are kind of a little bit more complicated and boring than we think they are.
The sad thing is that complicated things should be more exciting. But they're really not. What people want is simple, dramatic statements. They want it to be like, Valve is the greatest company ever!
It just occurs to me, I wouldn't listen to the reasonable, level-headed podcast.
No.
Well, considering what we started out with, I don't think we have to worry about that.
We managed to get unreasonable in places where we can.
Yeah. But, this whole thing isn't too... In the end, it's really not very surprising, because Valve does have a great image. You can always say that Valve keeps a good image, even if they have their problems now and then. But like you said, Austin, in the end, they're still a company. And even if they have a different structure, there's still going to be some more traditional problems in the structure. And I think it's just this kind of news because people had it on so high a pedestal that even seeing a little chink in it is kind of makes people freak out a little.
I think one of the most fascinating things about Valve's image is how they manage their image, insofar as they almost do absolutely nothing, except, like once every couple of months or something like that, Gabe Newell rolls out to a convention, sits on stage, and says a bunch of smart shit, and then they disappear.
Well, if you think about it, a lot of the negative stuff I see about the big publishers, about Ubisoft, Electronic Arts, Activision, all of that is self-inflicted. It's executives opening their flap holes and saying really ignorant, hateful, demeaning shit about people, maybe accidentally, and then we hate them because it makes it seem like they're out of touch and that they don't care. And if Valve, by saying nothing, kind of gives the impression that they're just hard at work all the time.
Well, have you noticed how Bobby Kotick has not said anything to anybody for months now?
He's let EA become the lightning rod for the last quarter or so.
Yeah, that's pretty much all he's had to do, is just kind of shut up and let somebody else do themselves damage.
And look at you. Look what happened.
It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
More publishers and developers should just learn that just be quiet and just talk when you have something to say.
Transparency is good, I guess. Maybe it's just a matter of getting people who don't say terrible stuff.
Yeah, you need the right people. You need people who know what's going on. You need people who... And this is one of the weird things I feel about the video game industry, is that it's like somebody who's in touch with the audience is obviously not going to be the kind of person that you necessarily want to employ to keep in touch with the audience. Because traditional PR is it's so slick and it's so manipulative and it's so social. And I'm not blanket out saying that gamers are antisocial people, but there is a certain aspect to people who are gamers that I think prohibits a certain proclivity for smoothness. There's a directness to gamer culture. There's a bluntness to it, where it's like, okay, what's the objective? All right, I have to get out on that stage and tell people they need to buy the Xbox. Buy the Xbox, motherfuckers! There's a subtlety that gaming culture shies away from. I'm not saying there aren't games out there that are subtle, and I'm not saying that there aren't people who play games that are subtle, but by and large, most of the games, and indeed most of the popular games, almost all of the popular games, are direct. They are to the point. There's a weird disconnect there. And presumably for somebody that you want to talk to your audience, you want somebody a little smooth, you want somebody likable, you want someone who can kind of bend the truth. But it seems like that wouldn't happen.
It's interesting. Me and Taylor talked about this. I don't know if we left it in the cast because it was kind of inside baseball, but leading up to the reveal of the PlayStation 4, Sony fired all of their PR staff, right?
Yeah.
And then they started assembling the Avengers of PR. They got Andrew Kelly from Nintendo. They got Aram Jabari from Atlas. They got a bunch of the biggest people behind the scenes that no one who's listening to this has any idea who they are. But it's a big deal to me. And then they came out and started killing it with all their PlayStation 4 stuff. And we all know how that turned out. Xbox got their ass handed to them. And it's like, we all kind of saw that coming because behind the scenes, PR stuff was in motion, and it is way more important than maybe you think. Like, I think most consumers like to think that they're not swayed by PR, like they're too smart to fall for the message, right? We know what we want. You can't trick me.
We would all like to think that.
We're all constantly in a state of being tricked at all times by everyone. So I think as long as you're not like offended by the notion that you're being always manipulated, it's kind of fun to see who is manipulating you and how good they are at it.
Yeah. I don't think Adam Orth.
Oh Jesus, yeah, exactly, right. On the other side of that, Microsoft is employing people who would. Geez, I still can't get my mind around that whole thing.
They would rather browbeat you into accepting what they're giving you than actually convince you that what you were getting was any good.
No, really, it's good. Take it.
Not only was he telling the truth and got fired, but then they went back on the thing that he told the truth and got fired about.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder where he is right now. Does anybody know? Like, is he just drinking in a basement somewhere, or is he just, like, at, Google?
I think there was like one tweet that he had after Microsoft announced that his baby, his always online baby, was being taken out, but I can't remember what it was. I think it was like one thing where he was like, well, there goes my life's work, or something like that. Yeah, getting yourself canned for something that inevitably, the company that fired you takes it back. That's rough trade, is what that is.
Yeah, as much as I disliked his comments, I do feel bad for him, kind of like as a person.
Well, he was put in an awkward place.
Yeah, I mean everyone in the Xbox division was. What are you supposed to say?
Yeah. I guess we're all just supposed to follow Don Matrick's lead and fucking jump ship.
Maybe. Honestly, it's just kind of sad if you think about it. They couldn't really come out of that looking good, no matter what they did.
Well, maybe they shouldn't have tried it in the first place. Yeah. I think that's generally a good indicator that it was a poor idea, that they felt trapped by it and they couldn't defend it. If your idea is indefensible, then maybe it's not worth implementing.
Lessons for the future, hopefully?
Yeah, I've seen people say that they're going to teach the Xbox One debacle in like business courses in the future. As like the case of what not to do with your product launch.
Yeah, no kidding, actually.
Anyway, everyone's so effing tired of the Xbox One talk. Let's move on. Next story.
All
Hit
right.
it.
How do you guys feel about jail? Now, Austin, I know you've spent a little bit of time on the inside, but,
Are we being serious right now? Because I remember story time, Johnny.
Yeah, I remember story time.
I don't know how much the detail I want to get into on here. I used to be, like, kind of a bad person. Like, I talked about it on here before. Like, the only reason I ever got a PlayStation 3 was because I knew a drug dealer who was going to jail, and he sold it to me because he needed some money for some stuff. But, yeah, jail is a thing. Yep. I think we might introduce the story before we go any further.
Just going from one depressing thing to something far more depressing.
Well, okay. Let me pare down the statement. How do you guys feel about going to jail for making a Facebook comment?
I think you should be sent to jail for making a Facebook in general.
For like just anybody who's got a Facebook?
Yeah, that would help weed out the people.
Well, I'm okay then. My lack of social media has saved me again.
Me and Robert are the only people not in jail.
Yeah.
That sounds like a utopia.
That sounds like the beginning of the best fan fiction.
I put up with you guys for like a couple of hours, every week. If we actually had to have like a democratic election between the three of us.
Commenters, you decide.
Oh, God.
Who gets the vote?
All right. So anyways, more specifically, more seriously, and right to the point, it appears as though a 19-year-old League of Legends player by the name of Justin Carter has been jailed. Now, Carter, not sentenced yet, but in, I believe, in holding right now, is having an absolutely fucking terrible time in jail. According to his parents, he's been concussed, he's had black eyes, he's been moved 4 times, he's been put in solitary confinement, naked, for days on end. He's on suicide watch. This kid is getting it handed to him. And you might ask, well, what did this 19-year-old do in order to get sentenced, or not sentenced, pardon me, to be incarcerated with his trial coming up? He was charged with making terrorist threats. Now that sounds pretty grandiose. That sounds pretty terrible. Until you actually read that apparently these terrorist threats were him jokingly telling another League of Legends player that he was going to shoot up a school full of kids and eat their still beating hearts, which he then proceeded with lol JK. Apparently that was good enough for some woman in Canada to actually look up his address and call the police in his county and get this kid arrested. So I, for one, apologize for the retardedness of this Canadian woman.
Johnny?
Yep. I'm sorry.
Wait. No, it occurs to me that we've said far worse on this podcast.
Yep. Yeah.
We might be in trouble.
But we didn't actually get anybody arrested.
Not yet.
Not yet. That much is true.
If the hammer comes down, we're throwing Robert under the bus. Agreed?
Agreed. Robert's the first to go.
Oh, me and Taylor are going to get you guys before that happens.
Taylor
and I apologize.
Taylor cannot go to jail. He's too handsome.
Yeah, he's way too pretty for jail, man.
Well,
he
then,
wouldn't survive.
You better not send me there, because Taylor's coming with me if I go.
He'll use you as a bargaining chip. He'll trade you for cigarettes.
Does he smoke?
No, he'll pick it up just so he can trade you.
You don't even need to pick it up, guys. As long as you know it's the currency of the system. In fact, it's probably better that you don't smoke, because then you're just getting rid of your money.
Johnny's thinking ahead. So actually, before we started the cast, Johnny, you brought up that it's not really a video game story, but video game sites are reporting on it. Penny Arcade wrote a comic about it. Someone asked the Blistered Thumbs Twitter account to talk about it.
Right, because this was a conversation that happened between 2 League of Legends players. Because these guys play video games. I feel that it's a bit tenuous that this relates to video games, apart from one very specific, I guess, aspect of the story.
The specifics of the story are kind of, hit or miss here. But the point is that video games have kind of a trash-talking culture. We say shit like this, on podcasts, during online matches. We threaten each other. This is a thing. So should we start worrying about being arrested because of things we say on Xbox Live?
I think maybe you guys should. I live in Canada.
So you guys are the narcs?
No, that lady was the narc. But, I mean, you guys are about to, you've got your NSA, and you've got your always online Xbox Ones. I mean, sorry, you're not always online Xbox Ones. And your Kinects 2.0s and things like that, and wiretaps and Patriot Acts, and you guys are, fucked.
Politics. Oh, jeez. I mean, is this an anomaly, or are we genuinely worried that people are going to start taking stuff like this too seriously?
Well, I think it's a clear indicator that people have already started taking these things too seriously.
Yeah.
That reminds me, there was a story going around a while back about people who were calling SWAT teams in on other people during online play and stuff. Did you guys hear about that?
It rings
I think I saw a couple stories like that.
That's messed up. That's why I don't play online anymore. People are insane.
People are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to bring up about this story was I've seen this a lot. People seem to think that what you do online is not like real life. When you go, whether you're talking about Facebook or Xbox Live, it's it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter if it's homophobic, racist, sexist. I can just do whatever I want because it's online. It's not real life, but it's still it's still real life. It's
very much real life.
It's this reality.
Yeah. And it's becoming...
People still have feelings.
It's getting closer and closer to your everyday life, like every minute. Everything that you post on your phone that's got a very specific GPS device attached to it. Like everything you put on your Facebook account or you comment on a friend's Facebook account. Like, you can't delete shit off the internet. A few months ago in British Columbia, we had a big uprising of a news story about a teenage girl, like I think she was 14 or 15 or 16, somewhere in that like middle teen range, early to mid teen range, who had killed herself because of, and I hate this word, cyberbullying. But the story goes was that she took some pictures of herself, suggestive pictures, that's as specific as I'm going to get, and sent them to people online. And maybe she thought she was being fun, maybe she thought she was being a little bit flirty or something like that, but that photo, or those photos, never went away. The data replicated. And, it did not matter what you do, how clean you scrub your computer, or if you go to a new place or something, if you delete your Facebook account, or you delete your Twitter account, people can track you down. And stuff that you put out on the internet, it remains there. So yeah, if, you called someone a fag, or you threatened to, go to their school and, I don't know, fucking shoot them through the head with your granddad's AK or whatever, that's out there.
I agree about that, especially because you said about the term cyberbullying. I've never liked that because it implies that they're somehow separate from regular bullying. Like, bullying is bullying. It doesn't matter if you're doing it on the internet or on a old-timey analog phone, or if you're doing it through fucking Morse code. You know what I'm saying? Like, the transmission medium doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like the media is still pushing this image of, like, is the internet gonna get your children? It's like, the internet is just electronically transmitted data. It's still people attached to these machines at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we can all agree that people need to be more careful with what they put online, but going back to the original point, and by the same token, this kind of thing, people need to learn to take certain things a little bit less seriously. And just the fact of what this kid can face, I mean, according to the story, he can get up to 10 years in prison and a bail of $500,000.
No, bail has been set at $500,000, and his lawyer has explicitly said that in all his years of practicing law, of defending murderers, rapists, arsonists, and all criminals from all stripes of vice, he has never once seen a bail set as high as $500,000 because this kid had the bad judgment to make a poor taste Facebook comment that he even clarified as lol JK. Not that I think that is the clearest means of discerning your sarcasm, but we have to understand.
Fair enough. I mean, but was the kid in kind of bad taste to say that? Yeah, probably. Do you deserve this? No.
Yeah, I mean, if they thought there was some kind of threat, I'm not saying they shouldn't have investigated it. Maybe if you need some counseling or something, it's not any of my business about the kid's life, but they got to check it out. But they're treating him like he actually committed an act of terrorism. I don't know. There's a certain level of where I'm not comfortable bringing this conversation into a level of realness for our listeners, but it is kind of genuinely upsetting.
I mean, this is the kind of thing you'd act like you joke about, that if you say that kind of stuff, they're going to arrest you, but then it actually happens, and...
It's like how we all joked that the government was watching us, and then one day it turned out they were, and then it wasn't so funny anymore.
Yeah, kind of like that.
We gotta talk about something sillier, guys. This episode got serious. It's gonna be our serious episode.
We got a couple more things that aren't so serious.
Like
a certain game was confirmed for international release called Tales of Xillia 2.
The first one isn't even out, Robert. How am I supposed to know if I'm excited about the second one?
Yeah, I know.
Robert.
I wanted to talk about that.
Answer him.
I can't. This is me answering. I'm in the process of it. Just like putting the cereal in before the milk. The milk is the understanding of the answer. Cereal is the answer. Yeah.
I'm trying to draw a corollary here between Tales of Xillia 1 and 2 and Cereal and Milk.
They go together.
Robert, did you have a point? We're losing it in the cereal.
I might have. But I'll get a new one if I didn't. The point I'm making that I find interesting is that Tales of Xillia 2 has been confirmed for international release when Tales of Xillia isn't even out yet.
How are you pronouncing that? I always said Xillia. Like, are you saying Xillia?
You're Xillia than I
am. It might be quite a tale to hear how Xillia you are.
Oh, fuck both of you.
Robert, stop copying my puns.
I made it better.
I mean, more localizations is more good. More games is always good. I don't have any problem with that. I mean, yeah, it's a little unorthodox because especially that Namco has not had the best track record with localizing Tales games in the first place. So to get ahead of themselves like this is not precedented, but it's good. I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth.
Definitely. And I know it's a really bad thing to base an entire thing off, but I've seen like move sets for this game. It's cool looking stuff. Kind of reminds me of Tales of Vesperia, actually.
Taylor, who we had on last week, listeners, just released an episode of his show Shinkara about Tales of Vesperia, so you should watch that if you haven't already, because that's a pretty good game. I liked it. Did you guys play Tales of Vesperia?
Oh yeah, Tales of Vesperia was awesome.
What do I look like to you? Some kind of console gamer?
It's a JRPG exclusive to the Xbox 360. I don't think you played it, Johnny.
I think that would be fair to assume.
It's really good though, and it pulls off the Squall character much better than Final Fantasy VIII does. Yeah,
I mean Yuri is an awesome dude. He's like the most popular character in the entire franchise. Everyone loves him.
I do too. It's so hard to pull off of a kind of like cool anti-hero dude without seeming lame sometimes, because you know he's the hero, but he does like some bad shit, and then
he gets dark and just starts killing people sometimes, and it's kind of awesome.
And you don't see that pulled off very well successfully, especially for some reason in JRPGs. It always comes off lame to me. I don't know why.
I think because of the romantic leads in JRPGs. Because there's a lot of the times when I played that, like, you know, ne'er-do-well, because I have played JRPGs, you know, please. A lot of the time those ne'er-do-well, like, you know, devil-may-care characters are like, whatever, I'm just along for the adventure. I don't really care about you guys. And then there's, like, that one girl, and then they're like, oh, I love you. No, you don't, baby. But I do. You really do? I do. I think you can change. Maybe you're right.
You'll be happy to know Yuri Lowell does not go through that.
No.
And that's the only thing that really makes an anti-hero actually manage to succeed. Is that even if they do change, the change is so begrudging and so minor, so just like you can see that there's a nugget of experience that they have during the course of the story that means something to them, but then they're still like, don't want to fucking talk about it.
I think everyone knows that Yuri belongs with Flynn.
Well,
forever.
If you go off what the fan artists do, but
yeah, and of course Estelle and Rita forever. So this means
Ristel,
nothing.
You mean
Ristel, their fan shipping name. God, fandom is so weird and it's so awesome sometimes.
I've seen actual shipping charts for certain shows with different length and color bars indicating how many times characters have been shipped. It's kind of hilarious to look at.
That sounds like a lot of work. I'm too lazy to be like a fan of that caliber.
Yeah, I don't know how people find the time, but I've seen it. It exists, and that's the best thing. Anyway, speaking of JRPGs.
Did you guys know that... No, never mind. Keep going.
No, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, speaking of JRPGs, did you guys know that they're still trying to make campaign DLC for Aliens Colonial Marines?
Well, they're legally obligated to because they sold a season pass.
Yeah.
You just had to bring up that game, didn't you?
I can't believe that they didn't just decide to refund people's money.
What's that? You hate our game?
Because there must
more.
there must have come a point in time after the game got released and they were just really getting started on the DLC. Because it's obvious that it wasn't done by the time the game got put out.
Johnny, the game wasn't even done when it got put out.
I realized that also. But, I mean, the boss must have walked into that team and be like, okay, guys, you may have all heard the review scores for the game that you are currently working on. Now, the sad news is you are going to have to keep working on it, but you need to realize that you can't save this game. So what I'm saying is that when crunch time happens, go home, see your wife and kids, enjoy this. Because nobody, and I mean nobody, is excited for this product.
Yeah, at first I was thinking, man, that must have been depressing to work on, because you know that it didn't matter, no one cares, and that they're going to hate it. But after a certain point, that must become liberating.
Yeah,
where you're just like,
absolutely.
No pressure. Nobody's gonna check. They don't need to QA this.
Yeah, you know, like the designer is not gonna be running into your office every fucking 30 minutes being like, okay, where you at now? We're really stoked for this game, guys. This is gonna turn everything around. This is gonna put Gearbox on top again. Everybody's gonna say, oh my god, Aliens Colonial Marines was a turd, but hot damn did its DLC revolutionize gaming.
The 6 people who are going to play it will probably love it. You know what's funny is actually, that just reminded me about how, remember, Johnny, you and I have talked some shit about Mass Effect 3 for like weeks there. The last DLC they released was actually really good.
It's true. I mean, you know, a lot of people are saying that it's like the ending that I really wanted, or like that final moment or something like that. And you know, the thing is that even that won't save the game for me.
No, it's too late. That should have been the game you made in the first place, jerks.
Yeah. And I haven't even gone back. I haven't bought that DLC because I don't want to have to play through fucking Mass Effect 3 again to get it.
Yeah, exactly. I watched it on YouTube.
I probably should do the same, actually.
I'm not giving them any more money for that.
Yeah.
To clarify for new listeners, we're not even mad about the ending.
No.
It's just the game isn't very good.
The game was poorly paced.
Poorly paced, poorly structured, glitchy, just had all kinds of problems. But yeah, I don't want to go over that again. My point is that it kind of sucks when you actually do make good DLC for an underwhelming game, because then no one cares.
Fucking clear, nothing can save Colonial Marines. Like, short of a brand new fucking game, which means that you need, like, new writers, you need new level designers, you need new fucking mocap actors, you need everything.
So I just have to ask, is this going to be like Aliens Colonial Marines, the We're Sorry edition?
I'm willing to bet that it's probably DLC. It's campaign DLC. So I'm thinking that it's probably going to happen after the fact or beforehand.
Oh, no, I meant your version of the game that you're talking about.
Oh, the version of the game that I'm talking about? There's honestly...
The refund version?
Yeah. There's only one company I've ever seen in my entire life actually go to such extents to try and fix the problems that people had with the game when it first came out, and that's CD Projekt Red. The work that CD Projekt Red has done to both The Witcher and The Witcher 2, for free, I might add, correcting, like, poor voice acting, like changing scenes around, like bug fixing, adding tutorials, like new game modes, new areas, everything. The only company that right now that I trust to absolutely take care of a game if they release it and it's subpar is CD Projekt Red.
Although, to be fair, Square Enix did completely remake Final Fantasy XIV.
That's true, they did, but I'm not sure that was smart for them.
They probably should have just cut their losses, yeah.
I think it was smart for The Witcher. But yeah, for Final Fantasy XIV, I think that was just misguided stubbornness on the company's part, because they can't let go of a game that says Final Fantasy on it, because they don't want somebody saying, oh, and Final Fantasy XIV, it doesn't really exist. We don't talk about it.
Well, they probably should have thought about that before they outsourced it to Chinese companies.
Yeah.
But, you know, Square Enix kind of segues pretty good into the first-person shooter I was going to talk about, because Tetsuya Nomura talked a bit about Kingdom Hearts 3 recently, alongside Final Fantasy 15 a little, but that's not so important.
Tell me about it, Robert. I am transfixed with fascination.
It was more just a note from an interview he did, but I just thought it would be something fun to talk about real quick. It's just, Nomura's like, yeah, if we wanted to include characters from Star Wars and Marvel and Kingdom Hearts, that'd be cool with us. We'd be cool with that. It's more difficult getting the people in different sections of Disney to say okay to these kind of things. And it just got me thinking, what kind of stuff would you like to see them do, considering what Disney owns now?
I want to see them make that movie that Patton Oswalt talked about in Parks and Rec.
I don't even know what that is.
Austin, don't leave me hanging.
I've heard about that. I haven't actually seen that episode, but I'm aware of that being a thing.
You can look it up on YouTube. It's a story about the next Star Wars movie where he attempts to filibuster a municipal hearing by reading out his script ideas for the next Star Wars franchise, which involves, of course, Thanatos and the Infinity Gauntlet, and, like, different universes, and fucking Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, and it's pretty awesome.
I was talking to Sean about this, because he's our big Kingdom Hearts guy, and he might do a feature on it, but, like, it's possible to integrate those properties into Kingdom Hearts, but I could definitely see them, first of all, not getting permission, and even if they did, I don't know if they'd be able to do it in such a way as to make it make any sense.
It'd be pretty dissonant, from what I know of Kingdom Hearts, to suddenly have, like, Iron Man come flying in.
Yeah,
well, it wouldn't be the first time they did something kind of odd like that. Like, they did Pirates of the Caribbean and Tron Legacy.
Yeah, but I mean, the Tron sections are really nice, though, because they're already in kind of like a stylized video game-y form.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I like the style of those levels. They were cool.
And Pirates, they did okay with Pirates. It wasn't my favorite level, but it's something like that. I don't know. I just don't think you could have, Mark Hamill and crew just walk up to Sora and be like, "Hey, you want to help us fight the Death Star?" Like, it'd just be weird.
You don't want to see Mark Hamill and Wolverine fist bump and then like rock out a guitar solo on the prow of Jack Sparrow's ship while they're sailing across the data ocean of Tron Legacy into Scrooge McDuck's private island?
Well, dude, anything involving Scrooge McDuck is instantly success. Because that guy's a badass.
I think if they did Star Wars, they should stay away from, like, the main human characters. Put it in the universe, have some Wookiees and some Tauntauns and some Stormtroopers, but keep it away from, like, Han and Chewie.
I'm not sure you could do that if they did put a Star Wars thing in there, because everyone
Ewoks would fit right in.
Ewoks are probably, the most thematically consistent.
Ewok partner, there you go. No, but I don't think you could do anything other than the main story, because people would complain, well, why didn't we get to see those guys?
I don't give a shit what people are going to complain about. I'm concerned about it being a train wreck.
Yeah, Robert,
from their perspective.
Cut your budgets, get your game out on time, and no fucking Han Solo.
Dude, it's not even the level I'd want. If we were really going off what level I would want to see in Kingdom Hearts 3, it'd be The Incredibles.
Anytime someone says Han Solo, I immediately think of that song from Star Wars Connect.
Don't
God.
start with me.
I'm Han Solo. That's the best. I'm probably going to put that in there now. Did you guys see I put the Space Jam song in there last week?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I did.
That was a good one.
Oh, jeez.
All right, so who's playing what? Austin? Robert?
Oh, man.
Johnny? Yes.
Actually, I want to hear from our listeners. Do any of you care about sports games? Because I spent a large part of my week playing NCAA 14 football, and if no one cares, I probably won't talk about sports games.
Did you play as an accused murderer?
No, he's in the game, but they're patching it out. He was one of the characters in Ultimate Team. You can get his card. Aaron Hernandez, formerly of the New England Patriots, for those who aren't in the know, dragged a man into an alley and shot him like 3 times because he disrespected him.
Hey, allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. So, yes, that is a guy that is.
You shouldn't laugh at that. Oh, dude. We're terrible people.
I'm laughing harder now. I made a joke about it in the review. Actually, I think twice. Anyway, if you care about that game, Go read that review. And if you want me to talk about test sports in the future, I guess let me know. Otherwise, I'm probably going to avoid that because I think the majority of you guys don't care. Shit, I also spent like 1,000 hours on Project Cross Zone. That game never fucking ends.
Hey, guess who else played Project Cross Zone?
I'll wait till you get there then. I don't want to get all upset. Then I played, the last thing I played for this week was The Walking Dead 400 Days. Are you guys down with this?
Yeah, I still need to finish the Telltale games, but
I don't have it yet.
Wait.
Before you're all like, Johnny, you haven't finished the Telltale games? I'm all like, yes, Austin, I have not yet finished the Telltale games. But you remember that my computer broke a little while ago, and I had to get a new one, and then like fucking I was moving, and fucking rhythm changed, and life fucked up, and I have not finished it yet.
You should.
I will.
Here's the setup for 400 Days. It's a DLC. It's $5. It takes place after Season 1, but before the upcoming Season 2. I think it sets up the characters for Season 2. Obviously, I don't know because that's not out yet, but that appears to be the premise. And it's 5 short vignettes. You can play them in any order, and they star new characters.
Just said vignettes.
That's because they're vignettes, John.
I know, I just think it's fantastic.
They're about 20 to 30 minutes each. It's a short game, but it's $5, and they're all very, very good. They put interesting and likable, or not even necessarily likable, but fleshed out characters in interesting situations. You have to make some tough calls, and then it kind of is like, what could happen next? And then I guess we'll find out in Season 2. So it is. I think Sean gave it an 8, and it's so hard to.
Wait, Sean 8 out of 10 Cronenfeld gave something an 8?
Is that what he's known for?
No, I don't know.
Because I always, whenever I think Sean's review, I think that 2 for Hyperdimension.
I think he'll be remembered for that, just like Yosef will be remembered for a lot of things. But
no, but I mean, the thing about The Walking Dead 400 Days, it is like micro gaming. It's already a short thing. It's a $5 game, but it's also further broken up into like 20-minute little stories. So I don't know how you want to quantify value for that. It's pretty new concept, but to me it represents like the promise of DLC gaming. If you remember like 10 years ago when the whole thing was new, this was what we had like in our minds. We're like, oh yeah, we're going to release cheap, high quality add-ons for great games. It's going to extend the life of these games and bring new perspective.
Then we got Force Armor.
Yeah, I mean, really, almost no company has leveraged this at all. It's always been, costume packs and shit.
We could easily make the same argument about episodic gaming, and I am not surprised that micro DLC is nailed by the same and only company I've seen do episodic gaming properly, Telltale Games.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to give them too much credit because they're the only ones doing the stuff right.
Yeah.
It's great. If you played the first season of Walking Dead, you already know it's great, and you should probably own this already because it's $5. So I don't really think I need to sell it that hard. It was our game of the year it came out, and there's more of it. So big thumbs up. That's all there is to that. What have you guys been playing?
Robert, do you want to go first?
How many have you played?
I think 3.
I played 4.
Robert, you want to get the Project Cross shit out of the way?
Yeah, why don't you guys talk about Project Cross shit?
Is that the new name? I wasn't aware.
It's a good game. I talked about this last week. I think you listened to it, Robert.
I did.
It's dumb, funny fan service, but good, sweet Lord Jesus, this is way too long.
Oh, you will not hear a disagreement from me on that one. My God. Well, it's just, well, first of all, for as silly as it is, if there's one good thing I could say about Project Cross Zone, if you had to hold me down and say one good thing about it, it would be that all the source material it takes from and references, it clearly has put in a lot of effort into making the references and respecting the material as much as you can with fan service. Because there are tons of references to tiny things that you'd only know if you played the game, or like I noticed that if you put all the Tekken characters together, they make a reference to Tekken Blood Vengeance twice.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to switch all the solo units around as much as you can to get all the different dialogue.
Yeah, like X and Zero will call this crazy chick a Maverick and ask if they can hunt her.
Yeah.
There's just tons of great conversations.
Yeah, it's fun. That's what I like about it. Like I said last week, it's like genuinely.
And Devilot's like the best with anyone.
Death Satan the Ninth.
I've said this before. I'm not sure if I've ever said it on the site itself, but I'll say it now. Princess Devilot Death Satan the Ninth may be my new favorite name in anything ever.
That's pretty fantastic.
I know. I didn't know about it before, and now I wish I had.
Anyway. So did you guys get Mega Man?
Yeah, I have Mega Man and Zero. I have all the characters. That's
Mega
why
Man?
Yeah.
Mega Man.
Well, it's X, but yeah.
Mega Man?
He's pulling a Leon. He's just saying Mega Man repeatedly.
Mega Man.
Don't encourage him.
Mega Man.
Base, roll,
Mega Man.
Rock.
Mega Man.
Rock and roll.
I'm going to mute both of you. What got me through like the first 30 chapters was that I was getting new characters all the time. And now that I have all of them and they're not throwing any new enemies at me, it's just such a slog. I've seen everything it has to show me at this point, and now it's just an endurance test. And I don't really feel any motivation to get to the end because I know they're just going to beat up the bad guy and then everyone's going to go home to their home dimension. It's not like there's any plot to wrap up.
Which chapter are you on now?
Like 30.
There are 41 if you count the epilogue.
I'm sure there are. Guess so that's like 15 hours of play.
You're close.
No, I could beat 4 other games in the time it would take me to finish this one.
Yeah, you probably could. I finished it. And whew, those levels. I mean, they know they had to, because half at least of the levels in that last set of 10 split the party in different ways to make sure it's not going to be quite as long.
Well, that's a trick it pulls multiple times. I mean, I joked about that with Taylor because he's like, "Oh, did you get to the part where they all meet back up?" And I was like, "Which one?" Because they do that every.
Did you ever play Namco Cross Capcom? Because if you think this game is bad at that, Namco Cross Capcom, every other single map was that. In this new place, let's split the party in 2. Let's do both those matches. Okay, one map together. Let's split the party in 2 together, and that.
I mean, they even make fun of it in the game in Project Crosszone. And they're like, don't you hate that every time we do a battle, reinforcements show up? I wish they'd all attack at once because it's really fucking annoying. And I'm like, yes, game, it is. And it's even if you recognize that, it's still annoying.
That ties in so well to another game I played, but I'm not quite done with Project Crosszone just yet.
Okay.
So, yeah, honestly, even if it was way too long, I find the gameplay pretty fun. Like, getting the timing down, I like getting timing downs, and watching the people do crazy-ass moves are fun. I find myself loving the Resonance of Fate dudes.
I said Taylor said the same thing. They're his favorite characters. He said that last week.
Among other things, they combo well, and they're the fastest bastards on your team. They always go first. And I'm with you, man. Senko and Frank are awesome.
They are. People shit on Senko and Frank. Why? They have the best dynamic. Because he's the zombie killing thing, and she's a zombie, and they're like buddies. It's so cute.
And not even that. Their combos are really easy to chain into one another and mix well because they hold them in place with half of them.
Well, they have lower damage than a lot of units, but they also they're like the first or second unit to get a multi-attack, which means they're like clearing the room for like half the game.
Yeah, gotta love which double unit you actually get last, though. Remember them?
I'm trying to remember specifically which one you get last. I know that the last 2 people...
House of the Dead.
Oh, yeah. Well, you first get to use them really early, but you don't get them back until
but they're technically the last ones who rejoin you. If we were counting who was the last one you actually saw, I think it is X and Zero.
Yeah. They hold back the popular characters until the last possible second.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, final word on this from me, at least, is that it's good ideas that could have served to be more judiciously used. It doesn't need to be anywhere near as long as it is.
Yeah, the sad thing is Namco Cross Capcom was even longer. They actually shortened it because the enemies you don't have to see every enemy attack. You did in Namco Cross Capcom. And, the funny thing is that they let you pick which units you wanted on the field. There was a limit. They didn't just throw them all at the field at once if you had them.
Here's a kind of generic statement about these kind of games. Just because you're doing a massive crossover doesn't mean your plot has to suck. Like, I realize we make certain allowances for that. It's like, oh, it's just a dumb crossover, whatever, just let them fight. I'll give it a pass, I guess, but it couldn't hurt to try, right? Like, I could have written a better plot than this one.
Austin, it could very easily be said of just about any game that just because you're doing a doesn't mean that your plot has to suck.
I know. I was just kind of speaking broadly. I don't
crossovers get a free pass.
The reason why crossovers get a free pass is because people are so fucking excited to see these characters that they really fucking love. And even if they only love, like, 1/16 of the characters in the game, they're like, oh, but I get to see so-and-so again. It's like an old friend.
Wouldn't it be better if the game was good, too?
Yep.
Like, you can have both. There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there is. Budget. Get your game under budget, Yorsky, and put it out on time and cut a bunch of fucking characters out of it. Mega Man? Fine, he can be in there for like 15 minutes. I'm not paying that fucker any more money than he deserves.
I don't think a good script is that big of a dent in the budget. Writers get paid nothing.
That's really sad. But although the writers for this game deserved money for how well they referenced their stuff.
You see, I was just about to say something like that.
Sorry. Didn't mean to steal your thunder. Although, Austin, the last thing I gotta say before I'm done with Project Cross Zone. Neneko is weird, isn't she?
Yeah, we brought that up. That's the only
game
in the whole thing.
I have to do it too, because gosh.
It's a mystery, all right?
It's a mystery, don't you know? Anyway.
So what else did you play, Robert?
I played a little game called Deadpool.
Oh, yeah, you have a review for that on the site.
I do have a review of that on this. Well, it's not really my review. Deadpool kind of tied me to its share and wrote the review himself. I dealt with it.
All right, if that's the story we're going with.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. The Deadpool game was sadly average, and I pretty much says it much. I gave it a 5. It kind of like Project Crosszone. If there's one thing it did right, it got its character right. Deadpool is very, very Deadpool in this game. And they have a bunch of fourth wall humor and crude humor that doesn't always hit, but they have some good ones in there. And they keep that kind of a tone throughout. Like, there was a point in a sewer level, of course, when I was just walking around, and suddenly I walked into basically Legend of Zelda. 8-bit Legend of Zelda for like 3 rooms, and then I was done. And later on, I walked into a 2D side-scroller, and then I was done. Little things like that. It was kind of fun. Those things were cool to see, and it seemed like the kind of thing that would be in a Deadpool game. And if, honestly, the whole game had been a bit like that, it might have been a bit better. But as it is, that's really the only thing I can give them a lot of credit for, because the rest of the game is mostly a pretty damn generic hack and slash with guns being added into the fray, with really stiff controls, at least if you ask me. No matter what I was using or what I was shooting or anything like that, I always felt like I was being restricted when I hit something. It didn't feel like I had the freedom to move as I wanted to, and the fact that and for a game like this where countering and dodging is important, the counter and the dodge button being the exact same one means often more than a few times, if I wanted to get out of a cluster of enemies and teleport away, I would instead start countering, and then I would get killed instantaneously because I was surrounded and I couldn't get away.
That seems like a really, really huge design cock-up right there. Counter and dodge. Because, I mean, while they serve the same purpose, which is a hopeful avoidance of an enemy attacking you, they're contextually appropriate. There are times where you want to counter and times where you absolutely want to dodge. And for a designer to be like, what the fuck, they're the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, look at something like, I don't know, God of War, I guess. They have, it's a very similar thing in attack and slashing. That's what it is, although it's much better designed. But there's a separate guard and a separate dodge because, like you said, there's situations where you're going to want one and you won't want the other. And granted, the counter is really wide, so it's not humongously a problem, but it came up more than once, and it got in the way. And then you get to, like, the graphics and the sound, and they're just really substandard. Like, the graphics don't look as good as they could. And I don't even remember a single song from that entire soundtrack, except for, like, a 5-second little thing where Deadpool says, hey, I need some theme music. And then you get like a, ooh, Deadpool. And that's all I really remember. And the story is not there. I mean, we were talking about a bad story. This is nothing. It's basically there's some kind of story, but Deadpool just completely ignores it and wins the day anyway. And I understand that is kind of what he would do, but it just felt like I was kind of robbed.
I guess the question is whether or not you would feel better about a game that isn't as true to the character, but is a better game experience. Because I can see that as being something...
Both.
Well, you know, the problem is that I can see that as being something that Deadpool would especially struggle with. I suppose you might be able to solve it by having more story scenes in which Deadpool is not involved.
Yeah, that could help, although they don't really do that. The most you get is little character introduction comic panel things whenever a new character shows up, like Cable or something, which are admittedly pretty cool. Although even then, they're narrated by Deadpool.
Well, the whole point is that if it's like, Deadpool's thing is basically stepping all over everything. He steps over the narrative, he steps over the action, he steps over characters. Like, there's not a scene that Deadpool's in where he plays second fiddle.
Yeah, I can't criticize. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can't really criticize them for doing that because I understand why.
Yeah, it's a tough decision from a design standpoint.
Definitely. But I just think they could have handled it a bit better. And in the whole, even if they got personality and a bunch of the jokes and some good parts, like there's a whole section with Death later on that's pretty darn good. But on the whole, it just kind of counterbalanced into a very average-feeling game. And it's kind of sad because there was a lot, they clearly cared about the character, and at the very least I can say they did do that. This feels like Deadpool. It's unfortunate, though, that the rest of the game didn't measure up.
You know, it's funny, we're talking about a character known for breaking the fourth wall. And when I think breaking the fourth wall in video games, I think Hideo Kojima, right?
Yeah.
Among others.
So, I just want to break in here real quick because we talked about this before. Remember, there was actually an episode we named after it. Do you remember we're getting a Half-Life movie episode?
Yep, I remember.
About Pacific
Rim.
Pacific Rim and GLaDOS, and GLaDOS happening in the same world as Portal and Half-Life and Pacific Rim. So therefore, Pacific Rim actually happens in the same world as Half-Life. Therefore...
Where I'm going with this is that while we were talking, Hideo Kojima's English Twitter account just talked about apparently he just saw Pacific Rim. Do you guys want to know what Hideo Kojima thinks of it?
What?
Okay.
I never imagined that I would be fortunate enough to see a film like this in my life. The emotional rush I had was the same kind I had when I saw Space in 2001: A Space Odyssey and when I touched the dinosaur in Jurassic Park. He says a couple of things, and he said, Pacific Rim is the ultimate otaku film that all of us have been waiting for. Who are you if you are Japanese and won't watch this? I think he liked it.
Seems like it.
So,
yep.
if you were waiting for the Hideo Kojima bump, there you go. He approves.
See, now I'm not sure I want to see it.
Because now you think it's going to be
because I've seen the movies that Hideo Kojima makes.
It's going to be all B-guns.
Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm I'm actually very excited for Pacific Rim.
Yeah, I think it could be cool.
All right, Robert, what other games have you played?
Okay, I also played this little indie horror game that I've had on my Steam library for a while, and I just decided to play, called Home. Have you ever heard of it?
Austin and I are well, I'm acquainted with Home, at least. I think, Austin, we've spoken about Home.
We both keep talking about how we're going to play it.
Yeah.
I bought it. I think you bought it. And
yeah.
then we just next time, Johnny, next time we're going to do that.
Yeah, next time.
I actually did play
it. Slow clap for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Too slow. Keep going.
Okay. But it's different.
Is that good?
Well, it was an interesting experience. It's how to put my thoughts for this.
In words.
Oh, do I have to? I prefer non-committal gruntal sounds.
Well, we can try it. I don't know. Really? Oh.
Okay, but seriously.
You guys are the worst, and I'm leaving.
Up yours.
We can do it ourselves. But, so Home, Johnny.
Yeah, Home.
it's kind of like a choose-your-own-adventure horror story, but not really. But for something that's called a horror game, it's
Is it like
not
one of those
exactly
choose-your-own-adventures where it's like, do you open the door or go into the bathroom? And it's like, you go into the bathroom, and then suddenly it's like, fucking ninjas! You're like, no, I opened the door!
Not exactly. It's more like you'll just be going along the paths that are available, and in the end, you do have to go certain ways. But there'll be a drawer, and you can say, oh, there's a drawer here. I could probably open this. Did I open it? Yes or no?
Ah.
Or just you walk in a cavern, and there's a knife on the ground. There was an old knife, rusted and a bit bloody. I really didn't want to hold a weapon, but did I pick it up? Yes or no? And you choose the answers to these questions, and basically the shape of the story changes depending on what you do.
Right.
Like, my first time through, I decided he wasn't going to pick up any weapons, and he was mostly going to be concerned with getting home. Because you wake up in this abandoned building with a dead body outside the door, so obviously you're kind of freaked out, and you want to get home to your wife who loves you.
Presumably.
And basically, there were a lot of optional things. I just decided I didn't do those. I didn't pick up a weapon. I didn't really go to too many extra rooms, maybe a couple. I was just mostly focused on getting home.
Yep.
And maybe we could do that new spoiler segment later for this, so I could talk about it without...
Well, I haven't played it either, so...
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
No spoilers today, I'm afraid.
Darn. Well, it's only... I mean, the first playthrough for me was literally 62 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not a long game. But in the end, there was one that was like a really big choice. Basically, did I find this? Yes or no? It's basically asking you all this stuff, or talking about himself in third person, as if he's remembering, did I do this, or did I do this? And there'll be different things, like, since this is early, I don't mind saying it, because I decided not to do much extra, after I got out of the initial area, the character was basically like, well, I didn't have any idea about where I was, I didn't know what happened, but thank God I was out of there and I was closer to home.
Right.
But if I went again, and maybe I did interact with most things, I found a bunch of back rooms, I picked up the knife, I don't know, I would get something different. Well, I found myself here, and I found this guy, and he was dead. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but I need to get home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the overall story will change. And it's an interesting experience, because the story is more or less what you make it.
Right.
But in the end, I'm not sure how many playthroughs you could really go through this, because once you've played through it once, you've pretty much played through it. Even with the differences, it's the same game, more or less. Even if the overall context can change pretty significantly. And for horror, I mean, they even recommend turning off the lights and putting headphones in, all the regular stuff you'd expect. But at least in what I played, nothing really scary happened.
All right.
I mean, there was a gas leak once that surprised me, because there was literally nothing had happened for so long. I was expecting something to happen. And then it was like a really loud out of nowhere. But nothing really happened. It's more like a creepy choose-your-own-adventure. But in the end, I literally bought home for $8. So...
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, I got my money's worth.
I've had candy bars for as much that lasted for a fraction of the time.
Yeah, and it's an interesting experience. I'm not sure if I'd recommend everyone to go out and get it and play it instantaneously, but if what I said interested you, or Austin, if he's still around, is he even here? Are you here?
Told you guys I was leaving. I left. I'm gone.
Welcome back.
Of course.
No.
Welcome back. No.
He's not here, Johnny. He's not here.
All right, sorry.
But if a choose-your-own-adventure dark story kind of sounds interesting to you, go for it. If not, you might want to anyway. It's an interesting experience to at least play through once.
Revolutionary concepts from the Blistered Thumbs podcast. If something interests you, investigate.
Well, considering how much people say, like, you have to play Last of Us, regardless of your opinion on the matter.
I don't have to do anything.
I can do whatever I want. Anyway, I played one more game, and that was something I really should have played a while ago, and that's Bastion.
Ah.
I'm not quite done with it. Still going through. But
So you don't know that the boy is really his own father?
What took you so long?
Laziness. Lots of laziness.
Bastion's so fucking good.
I just want to clarify.
It is quite good. I have been
not-
enjoying.
The boy is not really his own father, just so that, you know.
No.
He's actually his
Clearly, the singer is his daughter from the future who came to meet him in the past to save the future from the past's future.
Are you sure you haven't finished it?
Yes.
Bastion's super good.
Bastion is quite good, yes. I've been enjoying it quite a lot. The music is great, but I already knew that. And the graphical style is really cool. It's
got chutzpah.
It does have chutzpah. And
Game of the year, 2010.
the constant narration is also really cool, how it changes as you go. And maybe I just decided to kill every cactus around me. The guy will say he just decided to kill every cactus as if there was some kind of reward for it. Of course, I can't do the voice as well. That voice is, like, awesome.
Just going around hate criming cacti.
Hey, I am not racist against cacti. I killed them all because they looked at me funny.
So Robert's just a cacti reactionary then.
Do you hate all things with spines or just cacti? Do you hate hedgehogs and
Hedgehogs are cool,
Hey, I've
especially
got
if
a
they're blue.
spine.
Do you hate all things that have pokey parts?
No,
Hey,
I like
I've got a
pokey
pokey part.
Do you?
Ladies.
He's talking about his nose.
Oh. This might be the worst episode we've ever done.
I apologize.
I apologize for it, Johnny.
Thank you,
I
Austin.
apologize. Bastion.
So
The
good.
graphics are good, sounds good. The gameplay is really fun, playing all those different weapons and just shooting the crap out of everything or slicing the crap out of everything. Personally, I'm very fond of the ninja sword and the musket. That's my combo. I'm finding a lot of fun with that. God, there's really not too much more to say. It's just simple and good.
Yeah. I don't know who hasn't played Bastion by now, man.
I think I bought it. Oh God, it was either last summer or around the Steam Christmas sale.
So around Christmas.
One of the two sales. I remember buying it on sale.
Where is
I
the
just never
goddamn
got it.
Steam summer sale?
Have we
Yeah.
reached that point really
What?
where we
Which-
can put our foot down temperamentally and go, God damn it, I want my deals.
I'm just curious. I mean, if we don't deserve them or anything. We didn't earn them. I'm just curious.
Okay. I want to do a quick reminder here, though, all right, to everybody, that the first day of summer in 2013 was June 21st.
So it's been 3 weeks.
It's been 3 weeks, and everybody's like, where the fuck is my Steam summer sale?
When does summer end this year, actually? Now that I think about it.
I don't know.
I would imagine 3 months from the date he just gave.
I live in British Columbia, so my summer's going to extend until, like, September, possibly late October.
Oh. Anyway, Bastion. Good. If you haven't played it for some reason like I didn't do so, you'll like it. Almost. Yeah. And
I will punch you in the cloaca if you don't play Bastion.
He will.
Cloaca.
He will.
I've done it before. I'll do it again. I'm crazy.
Even if you don't think you have a cloaca, he will find a way to punch you in it.
I need to make a mixtape of all the threats I've ever made on this podcast because there's some good ones.
Are we gonna have a Blistered Thumbs podcast mixtape episode, like one of those clip episodes where it's like, oh, do you remember that time way back when?
Dude. When did this start? Has it been a year?
Oh, it's been over a year now.
Yeah, I thought so. You should just do that for, like, second anniversary podcast. You remember that time when Austin said I was going to punch everyone in the cloaca?
I was thinking about editing together all the non-video game talk to just be like a joke full of episode full of jokes, but that would take hours, like literally hours.
Yeah, that would be a marathon project.
Yeah, I mean each episode's like what, average of like an hour and a half over 60. That's
We're getting a little longer than that.
Well, recently, but I'm just saying in general, it would take like days to assemble this, like in real time. So that might be a little bit beyond my capabilities at this point. It's gotten too powerful.
And I tried to play Alan Wake's American Nightmare, but it didn't work quite right. And that's what I played.
All right.
It was a productive week.
Yeah, no kidding. Similarly, I had a productive week. I got to play 3 games. The first, I would like to officially announce that I am done with Skyrim. Now, that doesn't mean I super completionist, finished every quest, but I got to the point where I was like, I gotta go through. So I finished, fucking Dragonborn. I finished the Dragonborn DLC this week. And, I don't know what it is, but I've always liked the Daedra DLC. Always. There's one of the biggest problems that I had with Oblivion was that you were not the hero. You guys have both played Oblivion, right?
Yeah.
Austin?
Yeah, you just escorted the hero.
Yeah. It was like, oh, you need to go find the hero. And then you go find the hero. He's like, yeah, could you pick me up a sandwich? You're like, but he's like, no, it's a really important sandwich. And you're like, I guess.
Funny story, Johnny. The first time I played Oblivion, I lost him, just in a field somewhere, and I played hours looking for him. I could never find him. I had to start a new file.
That's impressive. I've never heard of that.
Well, I mean, but that was my biggest problem with Oblivion. And what I liked about Shivering Isles the most was that it actually made you the protagonist of your own story. You were drawn into this, strange and weird world where you had to, learn new rules. And granted, I had as much problem with Bethesda's writing then as I did now, because it was like, I'm the Lord of Madness, woo-hoo-hoo, daffodils and, hedgehogs and, oh, fire, ooh, dark things, but also blankets. And I'm like, yeah, you're not the Lord of Madness. You're like the G-rated Lord of Madness. But it did. It brought you into a, crazy place, which none of Oblivion was. Oblivion was all this, vanilla, Middle English, welcome to our town. I'm a white man. Come this way. And, Shivering Isles dispensed with that and made things a little bit more off the wall and strange and you were actually the protagonist, if not the hero. And Skyrim, while a little bit more exotic, it brought back the Dwemer ruins. It had fantastic things, over and above every other single Elder Scrolls game, because, the Daedra, the Daedra are in every single one. Fucking, I don't know. I don't even remember. Daedric Lords, I guess you did get to go to the Realm of Oblivion, but at the time it was like, oh, look, Mordor. So Skyrim might have made things a little bit more eccentric and strange and not so vanilla, but still. And while Dragonborn is hardly the best writing I've seen in a Bethesda game, or even an Elder Scrolls game, it managed to be exotic, it managed to be inhospitable, it managed to be strange, it dragged you to, I guess it really, a little late on the bus, tapped into some Lovecraftian things, because you're dealing with Hermaeus Mora, the Daedric Lord of Fate, and of course he gets represented as, a mass of eyes and tentacles. So it's like, oh look, H.P. Lovecraft. You guys realize that was really big a few years ago, right? But I have a particular love for Lovecraft's writings. So whenever I see things that reference or borrow from him, I'm always like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, I can dig this. This is good with me. So it at least catered to my tastes, while it didn't necessarily fulfill its potential. But I finished it, and I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not going to be scouring around for any quests anymore. I got to let this go. And very seldom have I actually reached the ends of games and been like, wow, I'm bored with this. The only games I can think of that have actually done that to me have been MMOs. But So yeah, I finished. There's nothing more to say about Skyrim.
What was your final hour count on that?
Okay, all right. Let's see. My final hour count. Let me look it up in my Steam profile here. 268.
Christ almighty, Johnny. No fucking wonder you're what? I feel like you got your value out of that.
Oh, I did, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not disputing. And one of the things I mentioned when I reviewed it for the first time was Todd Howard of Bethesda Games, before it came out, made this big statement about how he was like, yeah, games are too expensive, but not Skyrim. And
if anything, Skyrim should be more expensive.
Well, that's the thing, is that I was kind of like, you know what? To tell you the truth, you do get your value out of this. Now, if we measure the whole concept of gameplay value in terms of, like, dollars to hours, that's really not right. Because even if you pay... The War Z, which now has a different name called Contagion Survivor Stories, came out on sale a couple of weeks ago, and it was like on sale for $4, and I was like, yeah. I think I wrote a tweet that was like, you know what? Even if you buy a piece of crap for $4, you still get a piece of crap, and guess what? It costs you $4. So there's like hours to gameplay, not so much. Not a big fan of that. But Skyrim's gameplay was good enough that, I mean, it was a good game. It was well designed for the most part. It wasn't particularly well written, with mods though. I got to fix a lot of the qualms I had about its design, like the UI and a couple of other niggly bits and pieces. But yeah, I got my value out of it. I'm not gonna lie about that. It was on the whole pretty great.
I just think it's funny though, because I mean, you can't take hours as just at face value, because the games will just waste your time. That's not fun.
Exactly.
And short games can be amazing if they just do what they need to do and get out. But I think it says something that you were willing, even though you had so many problems with it, to put in 200 fucking hours. I've never put 200 hours into anything.
Well, again, I did get to erase a lot of those qualms because of mods, thankfully.
Still, I mean, I put about 100 into Skyrim, and I was like, yeah, that was good, and then I'm just done. And you played twice as long and had twice as many issues. I just find that pretty funny. So
it's like they say, you wouldn't play a game that long if you didn't like something about it.
I did like it.
You criticize because you care.
So that's it. I'm done talking about Skyrim on the podcast. I also played more. Wait, no, I finished. Pardon me. I just remembered. I played 4 games. I finished Assassin's Creed 3's The Tyranny of King Washington. And I liked it and I didn't. The first part, I talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, and I remember saying that I was disappointed in how linear it was. It turns out that I just hadn't played far enough into it. It starts out very linear and just kind of like sets up the scene and, gives you all these things, but then it eventually drops into what you would expect Assassin's Creed. Like, you get to fucking run around the wilderness and fuck around cities and things like that. Only it really changes the tone of an Assassin's Creed game, and I'm wondering if whether or not they were using it as a testing ground for, like, new ideas for a full game. Whether it be Assassin's Creed 3 or not. Because, like, one of the things about Assassin's Creed in the past is that I would not say that they are stealth-based games, because you're never really required to obfuscate your presence until after you've been detected. You can kind of freely wander around cities and, like, do your own thing, and then they have these small pockets where it's like, okay, if anybody notices you in here, then you have to blah. But a lot of the Tyranny of King Washington, particularly in the cities, in the third part, there are guards on, like, every corner, and they know who you are, and they are looking for you, and it's like, you have to stay out of their way. Now, they do give you all these supernatural-styled animal spirit powers that eventually do get explained. in order to cope with these problems, but I'm sort of like, okay, yeah, like you're changing the rhythm up of the way the Assassin's Creed formula works, and I'm okay with that because homogeneity is never a good thing. It breeds familiarity. Familiarity breeds contempt. So yeah, you changed enough up that it was sort of like, oh hey, it's like Assassin's Creed a la carte, or maybe you would like it with potatoes, or perhaps would you like to order portions of your Assassin's Creed individually, and then we can give you a wine to match with it. So it's like, over the course of these 3 parts, you get these abilities. There's like the wolf ability, which basically allows you to just go completely fucking invisible, but it drains your health as you do it. There's the eagle ability, which allows you to immediately teleport, well, not immediately, but within a matter of seconds, to, like a new overhang. And then there's a bear ability, which is just like smash the ground and fragile things around you will break and guys will go fucking flying. So it did offer a certain amount of change. And I found myself being more roped into the story as it went on, but I was disappointed by its conclusion. I will refrain from discussing it specifically, but it essentially manages to make everything that you did during the course of the DLC unimportant. And take that as how you may, but yeah, it failed to deliver on a satisfactory level. I still maintain that I think that Assassin's Creed 3 is the best Assassin's Creed game yet, but the DLC was obviously an afterthought based on this whole... I was concerned about it when it first came out, that it was going to be all pro-American Revolution and freedom and this and that, and the game turned out not to be that at all, and I almost feel as this whole idea of painting George Washington as a villain was, we better come up with a counterpoint. So there's that. Title number 3 of 4 I played this week, which Robert mentioned earlier in the podcast, was I got in a good 6 hours of Brutal Legend.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, indeed. Now, I've spoken before on the podcast about how much a fan I am of this concept of niche titles. About video game titles that aren't designed for everyone, but have an audience in mind, and they laser point for it, and Brutal Legend is that fucking title. That having been said, I wish it did better, but I understand why it didn't. Because, like, it is so good if you get it, but within the first, like, hour, I was like, wow. Okay, I can see why people didn't really warm to this game as much as I wished they would. But I think it's phenomenal. I personally do. I mean, I'm not a metalhead. I've never really been a metalhead, but when I was in high school, I was really big into industrial music. And there was a lot of crossover between industrial in the 90s and metal. Like Ministry, fucking, like, oh god, what the fuck is their name? God damn it, I don't have my CDs in my new apartment, so I can't check them out. But the imagery, the voice acting, I even like the gameplay. I know a lot of people fucked off about Brutal Legend because they were like, halfway through, it turns into an RTS. I'm like, what do you mean halfway through? Through the whole first portion of the game, they train you for this.
It is a tutorial, but you may not realize it is at first.
Yeah.
If you're not paying attention. I could see how you're like, oh, I'll just ignore this stuff and just hit things with my axe.
Yeah.
And then it's like, guess what? No more doing that.
I'm pretty sure I remember Tim Schafer saying that he put it as the single player is a tutorial for the multiplayer. And you can kind of see what he meant by that if you look at how the game progresses.
I guess. I got about 6 hours into it. And I love everything about it.
You are not alone.
I love the style and the music references and everything. I am a big metalhead. I love every genre of music, but I listen to everything they reference. I didn't think it was a particularly good RTS. I have no problem with it trying to be one. It can do whatever it wants. I just don't think it is a good one.
Well, this is the thing, is that it doesn't really strike me as being an RTS. There's only one other game that I can think of that Brutal Legend so far reminds me of. and it was a game by Interplay called Sacrifice, where you play a mage on the field who casts spells, summons creatures, directs them, builds things, and I fucking loved Sacrifice. Loved it, top to bottom. Like one of the gods in Sacrifice, because you basically at the beginning of the game you pledge yourself to a god, and that dictates your magic tree, right? One of the gods in Sacrifice is played by Tim Curry. I hope he recovers from his stroke soon. And so Tim Curry being in Brutal Legend, I'm like, oh shit, son, I know what this is. So I'm fucking thrilled. Like, the thing is that I think people are like, ooh, it's not really that great an RTS, when it's not really an RTS, though. You're not some omnipotent pointer-clicker up in the sky who's like, go here, do this, find that, over here, we need to research that, build a base over here. You do have a physical presence.
Just because it's not like the prototypical RTS doesn't mean it's not in real time and involves strategy.
No.
It still is.
No,
we don't have a name for the exact thing Brutal Legend is, but it's close enough to generalize.
I suppose. The thing is that I like what it's done enough. I guess, maybe my nostalgia speaking out. Maybe I'm saying it reminds me enough of Sacrifice that I'm like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. Because it's got Tim Schafer's writing, and the fucking voice acting is awesome, and the art design is fantastic. Like, all these, they have the character actors popping in. Fucking, like, the dude who plays the Hunter, who was on the Sarah Silverman show, and Steve Agee as well. Fuck, man. And I mean, never mind the legions of fucking metal icons they have acting in the game as well.
Ozzy Osbourne as the Guardian of Metal is awesome.
Yeah.
Just throw that out there. But actually, I have a question for you about that.
Yeah.
You said earlier that you see why so many people didn't go for it within an hour. What do you think was the thing that really did that?
Well, like I said, I feel like it's a niche title, I feel like it aims for a specific audience, and it hits that audience perfectly. But I think that if you weren't part of that audience, it would be foreign. If you're like, how do you feel about Queensryche? They're like, mama, this is America. There ain't no queen here. You guys have no sense of humor.
I'm literally falling asleep.
All right. Well, then, I better move on to my final title. So I'm enjoying Brutal Legend. It's next on my list. I'm trying to be diligent about finishing games. So that's my next one. But Austin, I played...
I am Austin.
And finished.
I'm glad.
Analog: A Hate Story.
Oh, shit. Do you now hate everyone as much as I do?
I fucking hate everyone.
And now I'm going to have to play it, aren't I?
Oh, God.
If you want to hate everyone.
Well, I already hate a lot of people, so why not just complete the set?
It's like the most fitting title.
Pretty much, yeah.
Of any game ever released. Because afterwards you're just like, oh, Jesus, I so much hate.
Yeah.
It's impossible to talk about without spoiling.
And not even in the story. Like, not even in the story, just in what it evokes for the player.
Yeah, that's the great thing. One of the best touches is that it cites its sources. After that, you're just like, fuck everyone.
Yeah.
Just from this game radiating outwards, just a wave of fuck everyone.
So, do you have time for an episode of Spoilers Corner?
I mean, do you want to wrap up the non-spoiler part of this before we do that?
I'm ready to go if you're because like you're right. It's pretty much impossible to talk about this game without fucking spoiling everything.
Yeah, it's a visual novel. There's no gameplay to speak of. It's all story.
I'm ready to talk about it right now.
Well, it's more if you're up for it, Austin, because you just said yourself you were falling asleep.
I'm very tired. But see, that's the thing. That's why I just don't give a shit about anything. So you guys decide.
I don't really have a say. I didn't play it.
Cloacas, they're going to be punched, guys.
Klonoa? That's an awesome game.
Not Klonoa.
Austin, are you talking about?
You better not punch Klonoa.
Talk about grapes so we can kick Robert from the chat.
All right. So, in summation, if you're gonna get fruit to eat, buy them from a store that sells fruit.
This is the worst episode.
The store is fruit?
No, a store that sells fruit.
Oh, okay, good.
And
although, getting it from the store that was fruit, like literally a giant grape, that you just like cut out a little piece and you take that home with you, then that wouldn't be bad.
That's not a sustainable business model.
That's why you have an entire vine.
If there's one piece of advice I can give our listeners in summation, it's never trust an atom. They make up everything.
Science joke.
You're funny.
Okay, so we're about to spoil Izzle the Shizzle, yo.
Yeah.
I guess I better leave. I can tell when I'm not wanted.
No, you can't. You wouldn't have shown up.
Screw you, Austin. I'm going to go to Bone Town.
Please do.
Well, then
Please.
you're welcome back next week.
Yes. That, anyone listening, if you play Bone Town, that is the Willy Wonka golden ticket to getting on here, because I want to talk to you about it.
Don't you mean Golden Dick it?
Oh, I don't know if that's not a good joke, Johnny. I can't give you full credit for that one.
I went there, though.
Okay.
I went there.
45%. But either way, I'm gone so you two can spoil.
Okay.
Bye, peace.
Start from the beginning for new listeners who don't plan on playing and just want to hear the thing.
Okay, so Analog A Hate Story is a game where you play a deep space salvage operator who basically gets a job shoved his way, where a faster-than-light drive ship gets picked up on scanners somewhere that was launched by the Korean Space Agency, brought to you by Kellogg's Pop-Tarts. And it's like, yeah, go on board, check out the logs, salvage everything you can, and, come back, and that's it. So you climb on board the spaceship, you, through an actual, type interface, manage to re-enable the AI, and with the help of the AI, or AIs, as the game goes on, manage to gain access to more and more information about what happened on board, so as to figure out why this ship is drifting in the middle of space with nobody alive. And
although I'll jump in here and say you can just download the files and leave. That is an option. The game will just end.
Yeah. You can do that too. Actually,
it's pretty funny. It's like if you just want to be the heartless professional, not learn anything about the situation. I just found that a nice touch.
So, if you do actually decide to delve into the story and the characters and whatnot, what unfolds before you is a beautifully structured myriad of terrible fucking people.
So, yeah, some of the most unlikable bastards in video game history. And the thing is, they're not trying to be. They earnestly believe that their way of life is totally reasonable because that's actually how people used to be.
Now, what winds up happening is that you basically discover that at some point in time, a disaster occurred on this ship to somehow...
It's going to be explored in the sequel, the specifics, but something happened.
Yeah, something happened so that basically the Korean Space Agency authority on the ship disappears. It's gone. That's it. And the only people remaining are, I don't want to say Chinese peasantry.
The game is, she cites, Christine Love, the developer, cites her actual historical sources for the historical period that this is based on. These are actual values and beliefs that a culture was once built on. The society regresses, essentially, to these ideologies. It becomes a very conservative culture based in, family honor and... I'm trying to think of how to put it.
Prestige and not necessarily land ownership, but the idea of title holding
nobility.
Yeah. So it's they go so far as to name the emperor and the captain synonymously. Like the captain of the ship is the emperor.
Yeah.
He lords over all.
And it's like the people who are left after whatever happened don't know how to work the ship. Like, they are technologically illiterate. And they basically start society over from the beginning. And where things go wrong is when they're in, like, feudal mode.
Yeah, so they're in the middle of deep space, and there are people who work really, like, low-paying, terrible jobs, who are doomed to work those low-paying, terrible jobs for the rest of all time, because nobody's going to bother educating them, because they want to maintain their own status, and, you know, make sure their children are educated and brought up to fill these jobs, and, you know, like, it's very, yeah, it's pretty Dark Ages, is what it is. Set on a spaceship, hundreds and hundreds of years in the future. So
I don't know how you want to approach this. Like, the AIs that you're talking to when you're discovering this, they give you all these documents so that you discover it. And the way it's written is that these things unfold to you non-linearly.
And I have to absolutely say this about Christine Love's writing, because I found problems with sometimes the style of the writing. But her structure is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, the way the story unravels is spectacular.
It always gives you just enough, and you get the sense of the scene, and it builds, like, the proper, like, tension, but it doesn't give too much away.
And you start saying to yourself, you're like, no, no. Oh, son of a bitch!
Exactly, yes. So, the first big plot twist, I guess, before we go too far, is that the AI that greeted you...
Well, hang on. Let's, before we jump into plot twist, let's actually, we'll talk about some of the broader themes that they discuss within this. So, within this world, they actually do manage to talk at great deal of women's rights, quote unquote, the value of women, the inherent superiority of man, and I'm hoping you sense the irony in my voice here when I'm addressing these things. But they also managed to talk about essentially gay rights.
Yeah.
There's that fucking scene.
Which one? There's so many.
No, the one with the courtesan and the I think it's the magistrate's wife.
Oh, the one where the mute's like, you want to see some fucked up shit?
No. Yeah, well, yeah, where the magistrate, like, the guy walks in and is like, oh, that's funny, and then leaves, like.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it manages to be shameful and demeaning in ways that I wasn't even fully aware that was possible.
I think it's funny to mention, when you were introducing the plot, you said that the main character, he gets a mission to go to the ship. It doesn't actually specify the player character's gender, and the fact that the AIs ask you, and then they change the way they talk to you based on your answers.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I just generalized because I am a male. It's my first standpoint to go to, and I apologize if it's insensitive for me to not say they. I was kind of curious to play the game again as a woman, because I wanted to see how Mute would react.
I did. I tried. There's actually several permutations. You can be a man, or you can tell them you're a man or a woman. It doesn't actually confirm. It's just what they get the answer from you, and whether or not you're married. And if you're like an unmarried woman, they're like, "How old are you?" And if you're like above 25, they're like, "Oh my God, is something wrong with you? Are you like mutilated?" Like they're super judgmental of you if you're a woman, especially if you're not like a mother or anything. It's just pretty funny.
So what Austin's trying to say is there are two AIs that you deal with primarily. One of them named Hyunai.
I don't even ask me how to pronounce that shit.
Yeah. And another one named Mute. Now, at first, you encounter Hyunai, which I'm just going to pronounce like that, and feel free to correct me because the amount I will care will blow your socks off. And yeah, she basically sets up the story about this, ship that's managed by this emperor, and there are these two major, like, families that are warring for control, and one of them has a problem, and then the other one steps in and, like, manages to get to this point of, like, control and superiority. And she introduces the character, who at first is named the Pale Bride, who essentially is sold off to the Emperor as a means of trying to increase this family's influence. And through the plot, it is learned that the Pale Bride is, in fact, a young girl from the past who is sick with a blood disease. Well, I guess they don't
specify yet. I think at least the way I read it was whatever devastated the ship she might have been sick with, and she was like cryogenically frozen in the hopes that they would figure it out later. And they think it's some kind of magic egg, and they break it open.
In which this supernatural, beautiful bride is like living perpetually with this. Yeah, so this one family breaks it open and sells this girl off to the Emperor.
And they all think that she's so pale and beautiful, but actually she's dying.
Yeah, she's got like a year left or something like that. And it gets revealed that the AI that you're dealing with, Hyune, is actually a computerized upload of her personality. So you're dealing with this computer the whole time, and it bugged me that I was like, wow, this AI characterization is really...
Anime?
Really anime.
Exactly, yeah. That's the first barrier when you play this game. You have to let it into your psyche a little bit because it's a little disarming. You're like, why is this anime girl telling me about feudal politics?
Yeah, like, I'm so used to this whole like bleak, cold concept of salvage being like trying to get HAL 9000 working again, and it being like, okay, its vocal circuits aren't working, so...
Well, I mean, it is narratively justified eventually. It turns out that, like, in life, like, before whatever happened to the ship, like, she was a normal teenage girl, and she liked anime and cosplay and shit, so when she uploaded her personality, she purposely made herself that way, because that's how she wants to live forever as a program.
Yeah, it kind of weirded me out when this computer program was like, hey, do you want to see me dress up in different costumes? And I was like, no?
If you play as an unmarried man, she does hit on you. That's one of the possible endings.
Oh, she did. I played as an unmarried man. I was going into this like I only played through it once and like a half.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, she hit on me. And and I was like, you're creeping me out, computer. You're creeping me out.
What's funny, though, because there's an achievement for playing dress up with her, because it's, like, all she's wanted for, like, the last 600 years floating in space. So even if it's completely non-romantic, like, you kind of, like, feel bad if you don't indulge her a little bit, especially when you find out the rest of it.
It made me feel creepy. Like, it really made me feel creepy. I'm like, no, you're a computer program. I mean, never mind the fact that it's actually a computer program, but it's a computer program of me talking to a computer program of an underage girl. And that's the thing, is like, she's like 15 or something like that. But, you know, her fictionalized appearance is that of, like, you know, a grown woman. She's, like, you know, of age of consent. And you can actually call her on it, too. You can be like, you're, like, fucking 15. And she's like, yeah, but I don't look 15 because, I mean, how weird would that be? I've been in deep space for hundreds and hundreds of years. How old are you? You know, and I'm like, that doesn't change the fact. You're fucking 15.
I also would like to point out that the game is incredibly sex positive, which is interesting because usually female video game characters are like I don't want to be like slut shaming here, but they're usually dressed provocatively for the male gaze.
Yeah.
I've mentioned before, Christine Love is a gay video game designer, and it's a female. She's a female written by women for women, which is it's an interesting perspective when you read some of the things that Hyune says about sex. I don't want to go too far into that. I just thought it was an interesting perspective. I've never seen a video game tackle those issues from that perspective.
Yeah, then it all goes fucking sideways.
But right when you're comfortable with the anime stuff, you're like, okay, I found the groove. Let's find out what happened to this ship. Oh God, no! Oh no, please.
It's a little difficult to choose where to go first. I mean, we've already discussed, an underage girl being sold off to an older man because he needs a place to put a baby. We haven't mentioned the fact yet that older man was already married to his sister.
Yeah, fuck, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
Basically, any way that men can be disgusting and terrible, they are in this. It's pretty hard to watch/read. I think what I hear from you is, since most of this is reading, it's a visual novel, but there is a significant gameplay portion at the midpoint.
Yeah.
What did you think about the core meltdown sequence? Because you have to stop the ship from exploding.
Yeah.
Through like typing commands.
I was underwhelmed by it.
You weren't impressed by how it was implemented, or you just didn't think it was very difficult, or?
No, I was not impressed with how it was implemented, because there was at least one point in time I can remember specifically where I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And the AI is like, oh, we need to lower the temperature. We need to lower the temperature. I'm like, okay, I have this limited set of fucking commands here. And I basically, I had to outweight the countdown so that the AI was like, oh, I've got an idea.
Oh, really? I mean, I figured it out on my first try, and I thought it was super clever. It made me feel really smart, because it gives you, 10 minutes to figure out what to tell the computer to do, and you can ask it for, what are the commands that I could input, and then you basically just trial and error it. You got to first turn off all the non-essential systems to get enough power.
Did all that.
And then you got to, the last thing you do, you don't have enough non-essential systems, so you have to shut off one of the AIs. That's the branching point.
Yeah.
Really, because then you're stuck with the other one for the whole game, and that's it locks you into one of the paths, really.
Yeah.
And then once you're under the certain amount of power, you switch the batteries, and then you have to vent the heat out into space.
That was the thing, as I had already vented my atmosphere.
Yeah, you have to close the door.
I had bulkheads had gone, everything, I turned fucking everything off. And then it was like, oh, it's still so fucking hot. And I'm like,
But if there's no atmosphere to conduct the heat, you can't vent it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You did it in the wrong order. Yeah, I can see why that would be weird.
I did it in the complete wrong order, and then the game was like, I've got an idea.
I guess I can see that. To me, I mean, I think I did the same thing. I did it out of order, and I was like, well, what did I do wrong? And I just thought about it. It's like if the vacuum of space wouldn't conduct heat, you have to have atmosphere. So you have to close the door, turn the life support systems on, then vent.
Yeah.
To then turn everything off.
At that point in time, I was like, oh, fuck, that's clever.
It is really clever. But I can understand if you didn't figure it out the first time, you'd be like, well, that was a waste of 10 minutes.
Well, no, I mean, it was just I was just waiting around, and then the AI was actually like, hang on, here's this thing. And I was like, oh, God, that makes sense now. Okay. So that was just sort of yeah. I mean, it was, from what you told me originally when you were like, yeah, it's shell commands and you have to type these things and whatnot, I was expecting something more complicated. I was like, oh, I'm ready for this.
I mean, it's not complicated, but I think it would still be a significant barrier to your average gamer.
It's conceivable, yeah. Yeah, I could see how. The problem is that I don't really have much insight into the mind of your average gamer. So,
I mean,
not that I'm saying I'm way above average or anything like that, but I associate gaming in my younger days as being hang on, I have to fuck with the config.sys.
Yeah, you're working on a whole other tier, son. These kids today, and they're Madden and their Call of Duty
and their Facebook threats.
Farmville.
The Ville.
Oh, so anyway, you find out that the AI is the girl from the story. You vent the spaceship, and then you're stuck with one of the two AIs, and then the rest of the story comes into focus.
Yeah.
I've seen all the endings. What is the ending that you got? How did it all go down?
Well, like I say, I played it 1.5 times. The ending that I played through to was the one with Hyune. Because, after I talked to Mute, she gave the questions, and I was like, all right, let's go fucking talk to Hyune about this. And I was talking to her about the questions, and then the meltdown happened, and then I was like, ooh, I can't go back and talk to Mute again. But then, yeah, so I went through that ending, and here we go.
Well, hold on. Let me just say first, after the first, if you say that the first plot twist is that the AI is the same girl as from the story, the second plot twist is Mute asking you if you know that Hyune is a murderer.
Yeah.
And then she gives you questions to ask her, and then the meltdown happens. So, to me, what would seem to be the way that goes down is if you immediately go to ask her the questions.
If you immediately go to ask her the questions, then the meltdown happens when you're speaking to her.
Yeah. What I did the first time is I was asking Mute about the questions. I was presenting the questions to her. and that triggered the meltdown. So like you can't get both perspectives before the meltdown happens.
No, you can't.
So you're kind of stuck with only one perspective, which means if you're stuck with mute, when you finish the game, you still kind of don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But I want to hear your side. I just wanted to get that in there.
So I was just like, all right, so she's a murderer. Let's go check this out. Because I have to admit to feeling a certain sympathy for her. You know, I was like, girl wakes up in a strange future, is like, hey, congratulations, you're being sold to a dude because, you know, our family's really important, but we need to be more important. I'm like, what the fuck? She's dying. So I went back and, you know, like, fixed the leak and then, like, pursued it right through to the end. And, yeah. So apparently, you know, like contemporary independent women, pretty mouthy, at least by archaic Chinese standards. And, her surrogate mom and dad decided to cut her tongue off.
That reveal, I knew it was coming, and it's still Jesus Christ, because you can tell there's like she's very chatty in some of the logs, and then not in others.
Well, and there's one log where like her mother-in-law or whatever it is like, "Oh my God, you're a mute, aren't you?" And I'm like, "What?"
You're like, yeah, she was just talking in the other one. So there's a clear that there's an event that cuts her life like in half, like into 2 periods.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh fuck, they didn't. And I knew it was coming, and still the description.
Yeah.
I was like, oh Christ, I would have fucking killed them before then.
And then, like any reasonable human being, she goes and decides to vent all the atmosphere on the ship.
To be clear, she doesn't do it immediately.
No.
She lets them sell her off. She gets married, and she actually is relatively happy for a while. She makes friends with the guy's wife. She finds out that she enjoys sex, which is what I was talking about earlier, where it's like you don't often find that in games where they acknowledge that women have sexual desires and needs too, and are not just for the ogling by men.
Yep.
So she's a full character, but at a certain point, after her only friend in the world dies, she just says, fuck these people.
And kills everybody.
Everyone on the ship.
So at that point in time, I was like, wow, I don't really like you either.
You know what's funny is that actually they foreshadow that during the meltdown sequence. Did you notice that the life support systems were already off?
No, I didn't.
I did the first time. So wait, so how did I end it? Yes, I guess. I don't know how I want to approach this.
Because as an unmarried male, she's all like, I love you! And I'm like, bitch, you crazy.
Well, it's not, I love you. It's, you're the only person who has talked to me in hundreds of years, and you seem to be from a not shitty society. Please take me with you.
Yeah, I know, but, I mean, she uses the word love, right?
Depending on your dialogue choices up to that point, yeah. If you treat her like, there's an achievement for treating her like shit.
Oh, all right.
For just the whole time, just telling her to shut up and stop bothering you and rebuffing all of her advances. Yeah.
I was curious. I wanted to hear her story. I was treating her respectfully and everything like that. And at the end of the game, she's like, "I love you." I'm like, "You killed hundreds of fucking people. That said, you got a raw deal. I feel bad. I'm taking you with me. Leave me the fuck alone."
I think that ending is called Friend Zone.
Yeah, I friend zoned it.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's 2 endings. There's the one where you can friend zone her, and the other one where you take her with you on better terms. The mute ending, which is
I didn't get to the mute ending. I went back and I played up to the break and like read a bunch of the fucking mute logs and things like that, just so I could get a deeper understanding of the story. But I was like, God, I don't even need the ending now. I don't even need it. I'm already ashamed.
Since if you go mute's route, you don't get Hayune's side of the story. So basically, mute's thing is it fills you in on a lot of backstory you don't get otherwise. But basically, you can't reboot Hayune because of the systems are down. So you take the information you need and you basically leave with her under the assumptions like some fucked up shit went down, but this bitch is a crazy murderer and we need to get out of here. That's not as cathartic of an ending, but where it kind of all comes together is if you do the Hayune ending and you get the log where they cut out her tongue. If you see the identifying number on that log,
yeah,
then you go the mute route and you type that into the search bar. It'll pull it up.
Really?
And mute will read it, realize what happened, and apologize and fix everything. Like she copies Hayune's data over to her files, and then you take them both.
That would be that harem ending.
Yes. Interestingly, the sequel will follow up on all of the possible endings. The plot of the sequel is filling you in on previous backstory on the trip back to Earth. But which AIs will be with you is dependent on the ending you got.
Really?
So that will play out completely differently, I imagine. The game is significantly, the sequel, Hate Plus, is significantly longer than the original game.
That seems to be the case.
And it's like just talking about the plot, it might not seem like super
It's an
impressive.
emotionally exhausting experience.
Yeah, you gotta really, if you invest in it, like emotionally at the end, you're just completely drained.
Yeah.
And like I said, I would have killed them before that. Like, if you put yourself in that situation at all, it's like, no, fuckers gotta die tonight.
Well, we have learned, Austin, in the past, and also this podcast, that you are a bad person, so.
I'm probably not the person to look. I'm not a role model. I don't want to pretend that I am. So, I'm interested though, because I wonder how unanimous any of these things are. Like, do a lot of people sympathize with her and think that she was right? Do most people think she's a crazy murderer? I don't know if it's actually divisive or not. I don't know how to even go about checking that.
Well, like I said, I was a little conflicted. I was like, girl, you got a raw deal. You woke up in the wrong time. A bunch of assholes did some terrible things to you, but you killed a lot of fucking people. A lot of people who had nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with your misery, nothing to do with the situation you were in. You just assumed.
Well, I mean, from her perspective, I don't think any of that society was salvageable, because she came from, realistically hundreds of years socially from the future from them, and to them they were basically just monsters.
And yet somehow we have managed to inhabit a society that is understanding, or at least more understanding. If nothing was salvageable, then tell me, why aren't we where we were back then?
No, I'm definitely, yes, obviously the progress is made eventually. My point is, from her perspective, she's not going to live to see that.
Which is terribly, terribly fucking selfish.
I mean, it's easy to say that from our perspective, I guess. If someone cut out my tongue, I'm just saying I would fuck bitches up.
Oh, yeah, no, I probably would too, but I don't know about everybody. If somebody cut my tongue out and I was like, wow, the human race is unsalvageable, I'm going to press this button that blows everybody up. Because that's really what she did.
Yeah, but I mean, if you read between the lines, like, that society was kind of going down anyway, and that's not any excuse. I'm just saying, like, it was pretty clear. Like,
it is not an excuse, Austin, and there's no justification that you can bring.
No, I'm not. Did you notice these things? I was just trying to point out, like, that everyone was, like, infertile or on their way to being so.
Yeah, they did mention that.
There was, like, it wasn't, like, spelled out for you, but it was a motif. And I think that's something that's going to be explored. As in addition to, like I said, the people who are in this oppressive patriarchal society don't know how to work the technology, yet mute is really misogynistic.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Christine has explicitly said that's going to be explored in the sequel. There are unanswered questions, and I think there's a lot of interesting, like, interpretations that can be made from all of the different clues that are left in it. So I don't think it's quite as straightforward as perhaps we're making it sound. But we're just, broad strokes here.
Yeah.
But that's really the magic of it, is that it can kind of make you feel for a mass murderer. It's not easy to do that, I guess.
No, it's not.
Because you can just give anyone a tragic backstory. Oh, this person was abused, and then they killed a bunch of people. Isn't that sad? Not really. But when you take a couple hours to make you feel someone else's pain gradually as it gets to a certain point, and then you're actually there.
Yeah, it brings a lot of twists and turns to get you to a point where you wouldn't necessarily think that you could get. But I hold my ground.
And like I said, she cites her sources. Like, the society in question is based on a real period of Korean history.
Yeah.
So it's not like this is pure speculative fiction to fit in a kind of political agenda.
But they do set many of the characters as being Chinese. Am I right? Or no, they read the characters differently.
Yeah, that's part of the reason that Hayune can't tell anyone that she's been mutilated, is because she doesn't write the same characters as the people do anymore. She does the traditional characters or something, and they do the simplified.
Right.
I'm not a language expert, but it is relatively well explained. I am not good at explaining it.
Yeah. I think I made an assumption early on in the game that I was just unable to let go of.
Yeah, I think she uses one kind of characters, they use another, so she's way smarter than them.
You know what it was? Yeah, I'm sorry. You know what I think it was? I think it was that I assumed that the game was Japanese when I first started it.
Uh-huh.
And then I was thinking about the difference in the kanji, like how certain, like how Mandarin or Cantonese read the same characters.
The game is Canadian.
No, I recognize that, but it takes a while for them to be like Korea. And then I think I was just like, oh, okay, and then assumed that they were still just reading from the same kanji for some reason. Because I know that the Korean alphabet, or the Korean language, is represented differently than Japanese and Mandarin or Cantonese or what have you. But
we are not the people to be having this conversation, most likely.
No.
But yeah, that's another thing. It's like there's a whole kind of theme about education running through the whole thing, too.
Yeah, there's the bit with like, what's his name? I actually think I know his name. It's like Yeong Sok or something, and his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Where
and she's like helping him with the.
Yeah, and he lets her sit in on his math lessons because women aren't supposed to be educated though. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean that's funny though because that's completely irrelevant to the main plot, but I remember that exact thing too. There's a lot of like interesting just character moments. Yeah,
it's very character intensive. There's a lot of things like, again, I remember that at one point in time Yeong Sok finds Hyunai reading in like, her adopted father's study because he's like her brother technically after she gets adopted. And he ushers her back to the women's quarters and like, holy cow, she could get in a lot of trouble. And while at once you're sort of like, oh, geez, dude, why don't you just let the girl read? At the same time, you're kind of like, wow. At the end, I was like, wow, he was actually really looking out for her because she probably would have got her face beaten off.
Well, also, when I read that scene, because, by that point you can tell that they're technologically illiterate, I was wondering if they were worried she was going to do something with the computer. Because, I mean, that is ultimately what she does to fuck them over, but...
Yeah, but they don't know.
Exactly, yeah. That's what I'm saying, because to them it might as well be magic.
Yeah. Any technology
sufficiently advanced technology.
Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Exactly.
Arthur C. Clarke. I mean, Isaac Clarke. I mean, Arthur C. Asimov.
Star of Dead Space.
Star of Dead Space 5. iRobot.
Ugh, jeez.
Well, Austin, I think we've sufficiently spoiler-cornered Analog Hate Story.
Is that the name of this sequence now? We have just a name?
Spoilers Corner?
Spoilers Corner.
I guess.
Okay, well, that was a conversation. That was a long time coming.
Yeah, I'm glad I could finally get to it. There are other games, many other games that I need to play and finish and do my thing and whatnot, so I might go back to it in a little while, but... Oh, holy shit, Shadowrun Returns launches in like 2 weeks. I'm in that game.
Do you die?
I don't know.
I hope you're killable. That'll be the first thing I'll do.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
I hope that I'm badass and that you try to kill me and you're like, I'm going to shoot you, Johnny. And Johnny's like, humanity must die.
Yeah, I wonder how much you would have to pay for a Kickstarter for you to be like the villain. Probably a lot.
Probably quite a bit, yeah.
That'd be pretty cool, though. You're playing your game and just Johnny Maloney, Starfucker, shows up.
That'd be pretty fucking fantastic.
It just fucks your shit up. That would be great.
That would be pretty awesome. In the meantime, I have to run off to my brother's place because we're supposed to be watching a movie tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to go nap before I edit this. I'm so tired.
Yeah, what's up with that, dick?
Just my sleep schedule's all fucked up. I woke up like 5 this morning.
What the fuck is your problem?
We don't have time for that.
You're probably right, actually. I don't know why I bothered asking.